going on, and they're in terror right now. You got people that are terrified. What else will make a person just not use common sense and their physical condition to say, let me take this damn mask off. I can't even breathe. I'm getting lightheaded.
Yes,
you sit there with no thing over your face and just constantly inhale your own carbon dioxide. They're so terrified that all of a sudden that psychologically, that doesn't even bother them. Physiologically, cool. You should have told me. I thought it was up and running from the moment you said it. The people that are taking those shots willingly, and all of the measures that have been imposed for the time period, they're doing it and they feel safer. You got people. There are those that are talking about they're never coming out the mask. We could be one of them idiots. Right. Common sense. The Most High made us to breathe His fresh air. So now we're gonna, and it's like imagine seeing someone urinate in a cup. You think they're getting ready to take it to a doctor. No, they take it as a shot. Now that sounds grotesque. Someone that let me see if this is Amayetazah. Someone that, yes, him. Okay, yeah, man. How do I do that? How do I send do you have Daria? Do you got Amayetazah's Facebook link? Could you somebody send me the Zoom link so I can send it to him?
Okay, I have
huh?
I want to see the Zoom link right now because I don't have that on Facebook.
Say that again. What do you have it at?
I have a war see the Zoom link. Send the Zoom link to Amayetazah, right?
Yeah, right away. Right. Thank you. Yo, I'm sorry, I gotta start doing these vocal exercises again. I hate that shit, but they're the only thing that keep me from all the coughing and phlegming and stuff. Anyway, like I was saying, hold on, y'all. I gotta do something real quick. Oh man, this makes me damn sick. All right, sorry. So we could easily be in the dark. And like I said, we could right now. I don't know how you brothers or sisters really feel, but the world is in terror right now. Many of them, I say not the whole world, people are tired of it. Many people are waking up. You know, I don't know if you've seen different reports on different alternative news sites where many people are starting to go to their school board meetings, parent-teacher association meetings, and raising a fit about their children being forced to stay in masks. You understand? So we could easily be one of those people lost without this information. We could easily be one of those people that apparently we would have been left out of even being what? Of even being considered to do this work. Because this is our placeholder in salvation. So that's why I wanted to go over, and I'm actually harping on the quote servitude, because that's the biggest issue. We have to go through a process that breaks us of what? That breaks our will to command or to direct our own life. In other words, that desire, that aspiration to pursue one's own will, that has to be broken, huh?
Okay, I sent you the link to your Facebook. I don't have Amiatas on my Facebook.
Okay, I just got it. I'm gonna send it to him now.
No problem.
Thank you, bro. Who'd have thought we'd be doing this shit? All this technological stuff, brother, drives me crazy. And every time I do anything on the phone, I gotta close one eye because I can't see out of it, but it still gets it gets in the way. I don't know how, but point is, I can't focus unless I'm anyway. So where we're gonna start off with, who remembers what we went over? Maybe I might be crossing classes now. Didn't we go over once in John chapter 13 where Christ washed the apostles' feet?
Done.
Okay.
He exposed himself. You saw him exposed.
Okay, good. Let's go there one more time. And from there, I want to go to Philippians. Remember, we went there just to show, to highlight the place in Christ's mind where he was as he served. And I spoke about transparency. And the reason why I say transparency, meaning coming into the body and really being you. You're going to make mistakes, but transparency just refers to being what? To Shalom Amayetazah. You see him there.
Shalom.
But I wouldn't, if you needed it, I wasn't going to say nothing this evening, but I was going to let you roll, bro. But after class, briefly, I need to talk to you, okay?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're heading to John chapter 13 and verse 12 through 15.
Okay.
Tonight's episode is servants in Christ. It's just a continuation of what we were talking about last week in breaking ourselves and manning up in Christ. And I'm letting them know when I say manning up in Christ, that means literally accepting and embracing the calling of servitude to Christ. And I want to go into the mentality that we're supposed to be in. And I want to do so by rehashing what we read about Christ when he washed the apostles' feet. So we're in chapter 13 of John, verses 12 through 15. Go ahead.
John chapter 13 and verse 12. So after he had washed their feet and had taken his garments and was set down again, he said unto them.
No, we'll find the verse where he washes their feet.
Oh, okay.
It's a little early.
Verse 5.
Go ahead.
John chapter 13 and verse 5. After that, he poureth water into a basin and began to wash the disciples' feet and to wipe them with the towel wherewith he was girded. Then cometh he to Simon Peter, and Peter saith unto him, Lord, dost thou wash my feet? Yahushua answered and said unto him, What I do thou knowest not now, but thou shalt know hereafter.
Yeah, what I'm doing, you don't understand it, but I'll clear it up to you, is what he's saying later. I'll clear it up to you after.
Verse 8. Peter saith unto him, Thou shalt never wash my feet.
Right. Now people think that Peter was rebelling, but Peter wasn't. He held Christ in such a high esteem that he was saying, in that action, he was saying, this is beneath you. You're never going to wash my feet. I'm your servant. You're the master. But Christ is trying to teach him. Peter is being set up first and foremost, remember, to be the head apostle. And Christ is teaching him how to what? How to execute his office like a servant. That's what he's doing. Go ahead, Amayetazah.
Verse 8. Peter saith unto him, Thou shalt never wash my feet. Yahushua answered him, If I wash thee not, thou hast no part with me.
Yeah, and that's just spiritual. That's saying the washing part is literally talking about the cleansing that's coming by way of the scriptures. All right. In other words, if I don't wash you, this is telling us that if you don't let this word clean you up, we have no part with Christ. That means that when we find things, inconsistencies between our thinking in the scriptures, between our deeds in the scriptures, between our thoughts, which only we know, right, with respect to other people around us, and the scriptures, if we don't allow this word to teach us, and then we make the necessary adjustments. And when I say adjustment, that don't happen in a moment. Like you don't think a certain way and it be manifested through your speech or through your actions, and then you get checked, and then you never think like that again. That doesn't happen. This is talking about what? Undergoing a process. So only listen, this is where transparency come in. This is speaking of undergoing a process by which your mind, your thoughts, your actions are constantly what? Being corrected. And you can't get that attention not being around the body where that dynamic takes place. You can't get that attention being a member of the body, but not being involved in the activities and the responsibilities that put us in proximity with each other to be scrutinized, that put us in the company of one another to what? For me to be offended by you, for you to be offended by me. That's the process of getting worked on. That in itself is the way that we have a part with Christ, meaning we listen, because I'm not going to get that in the world. I'm not going to get it at work. The people at church clearly are not going to give it to me here. They're going to say, here, nigga, have a ham sandwich. So where else can we get these principles exercised in us with the what? With the consistency that we need. Because one time in the week don't do it. That's here. And then how are we most apt and most probable to get that attention is when we're most transparent, when I'm just really being me. I'm not being around people trying to not make mistakes. Of course, my objective is not to make mistakes, but in learning, my objective is not to come in and just screw up. But in learning and making a transition from the world to the spirit, then all I have to do is be real. I have to be sincere. I have to be forthwith. I have to be frank. I have to be candid. And I have to say what I mean. These are the things, these little feminine things that men exercise. Anybody ever, brother, got wives? Know that sometimes wife be having something on her mind, an attitude, and she don't let you rest. She won't say nothing, but but it'll be clear. She'll make it clear to you that something is wrong. And you be like, what? But then she don't want to say nothing. Yeah, what, baby? But she wants you to dig and dig and dig and dig. Now all of a sudden it ain't even about what's on. Now it's about the attention that you're giving her. And then that's sometimes what they equate as love. But that ain't love. That's frustration. Love is, okay, tell me what's on your mind so I can give you the attention that actually helps you. And that's what happened with brothers. That's what I mean when I say transparency. We all going through changes. We're all making this transformation. And so Christ disrobed and serving and washing those feet was talking about the spirit in which he executed his service, his ministry, open, truthful about himself, about those around him. So Christ never said, no, I don't want to say this, and then they're going to get their feelings hurt. When they said something, Christ said, how long must I suffer you? Do you know what that phrase means? You've heard it probably from your parents. How long I got to put up with y'all? That's what that phrase means. Suffer you means to tolerate you. Now go through the New Testament to read how many times Christ said, how long must I suffer thee? Oh, crooked generation. Oh, faithless generation. Well, he knew the answer, how long he was going to have to tolerate them. But what was he showing? He was showing that was really how he felt at that moment. And it's not wrong to feel like that. We can't handle it. I said, we mean us coming out of the world into truth. everything is personal, and the men are soft. The women are inordinately hard. They're hardened by their experience and ignorance, by the things that they've done to themselves, just like we're soft behind the things that we've done. The freedoms that we've exercised then left us all soft and feminine. So this is Christ saying, if I don't wash you, meaning if this, you don't let this word in, because that's what he was doing with the water with the feet. If you don't let this word in, I have nothing to do with it. That means what? That means he can't. That means he can't cleanse you. Why? Because you won't, like Peter, you're not washing my feet. Go ahead, Yatazal.
Verse 9. Simon Peter saith unto him, Lord, not my feet only, but also my hands and my head.
Yeah, Christ said, if I don't wash your feet, you have nothing to do with me. Then Christ, Peter, if that's the case, wash my hands and my head. Go ahead.
Verse 10. Yahushua saith to him, He that is washed needeth not, save to wash his feet, but is clean every whit.
He's saying, no, that's not necessary, because he's speaking of the cleansing of the heart. He that is washed, you don't have to wash your hands and your feet. This is symbolic what I'm showing you. But he's clean everywhere. Every whit means everywhere. Peter's taking it literal, but Christ is trying to talk about the cleansing of the heart, the cleansing of the mind, the purifying and purging of the intentions. Go ahead.
But is clean every whit, and you are clean, but
See,
not
Peter,
all.
listen, but you guys are clean, but not all of them. Meaning, go ahead.
Verse 11. For he knew who should betray him. Therefore said he, You are not all clean.
Right, because he knew, and it tells you in the first couple of, I think verse 2 or 3, it lets you know that Satan had jumped into Judas already. And that's funny, because we watch the movies. When Satan jump into somebody, the whole world know it. Nigga head starts spinning around, start crawling on the walls. They get in that yoga bridge position and start walking all over the place like an upside down spider. That's the movies. But when Satan got into Judas, what happened? He just chilled out. Just waited till dinner was over and went and did what he had to do. And that's how he be in us. He was sitting there listening to the message. He's sitting, that's how he be in us. Just like Judas was at that Passover, that's called the Last Supper. That's how Satan be in us. Judas was sitting right there listening to everything that all the others were listening to. The message, he was right there getting his feet washed. People gonna come and people that came in and got their feet washed and was doing evil. Satan was in him, and what? And they were the ones that had more allure. They were the ones who were more favorable. But it was Satan. He didn't make the nigga spit up pea soup. He didn't have the nigga crawl up the walls. He just had them smiling and telling people what they want to hear. And getting little bitty carnal favors here and there. That's how Satan operates. And that's why Christ said that person wasn't clean. Go ahead, Yatazal.
Verse 12. So after he had washed their feet and had taken his garments and was set down again, he said unto them, Know ye what I have done to you?
So he's checking them out. Okay, you guys, do you realize you saw what I just did? Go ahead.
Verse 13. You call me master and Lord, and you say, Well, so I am.
Yeah, you guys refer to me as your master and your Lord. And you're right. I am your master, is what he's saying. Go ahead.
Verse 14. If I then, your Lord and master, have washed your feet, ye also ought to wash one another's feet.
So the question is, how long does it take for us to make the transition out of the world into the truth, find out what our calling is, the nature of our calling? When I say what our calling is and the nature of our calling, those are two distinct things. The nature of our calling, everybody in this meeting is the same. We're here to serve. But what our calling is, how do I serve as opposed to how you serve, that's different. But in whatever duty you perform, whatever your calling is, it's supposed to be done in the spirit of a servant. That's what he's saying. And this is what he's letting the apostles know. I'm your Lord, but if I, your Lord and Master, can do this, wash your feet, then so ought ye to do one for another. Go ahead and read that verse again, Amiyah.
John chapter 13 and verse 14. If I then, your Lord and Master, have washed your feet, ye also ought to wash one another's feet.
Go ahead.
For I have given you an example that you should do as I have done to you.
Boom. So we're supposed to be here. Like I'm gonna say this, that's why I always be putting that call out recently. Like the young men should be getting to Texas or a place like Texas. Well, and I'm talking about a place that have a dynamic where there is a rigorous, laborious workload, huh? Because that's what builds us. That's what our fathers, granddaddies did as children. They put us to work. Y'all know that. They put the girl, I'm like, oh, the baby, I remember the girl, foster home, we all had work to do all the time. Saturdays we had to get our asses up working. Every Saturday, my job was to clean the kitchen walls from all the grease that accumulated. The girls had their job, the boys had their job. These people was from, this last couple that had me was from Louisiana. One of them was from Tallulah and the other one was from New Orleans. And they called it woodwork, even though the walls was damn cement. But you had to do all of this. And then by the time 2 o'clock came, then we had the rest of the day to do what we wanted to do. And that built character. And I'm talking about mad chores. And my job was I was the literal, what do you call them? The gardener of the place, the front yard and the backyard, and all of the landscaping that went with it. That was my job. Then when they decided to turn the backyard into a garden, that was my job. Then when they started to bring a little bit in the middle of LA, some animal husbandry, chickens, ducks, and rabbits, those were my jobs. What I had to do. And those are the things that build you. They did, and then in the summer, I got to go to their biological son house and chop wood for the whole summer. When I say chop wood for the whole summer, get up in the morning, eat breakfast, go out there, split those 3/4 and 4s, stack them along the wall. I did that literally from 8 to 1 o'clock, had lunch, got about an hour and a half for lunch, and went back out there about 3:30 and 2:30, 3 o'clock, and had to do that until dinner time. And shit, I remember me and their son. We would just be out there chopping wood and singing. I literally, it was like, and I didn't feel like it was like a slave thing. That just was made it fun. We were singing all the old Motown hits. Then after we ran out of Motown hits, then we go through Walter Hawkins gospel hits, Tremaine Hawkins, that's what we did. And I didn't know how it was going to benefit me until one day I'm 12 years old and I'm built. I go to junior high my first year and take back in the gym, back in those days, you had to do all of your tests. You had to jump, you had to take a test on your vertical leap at the beginning of the year. You had to take a test on how many chin-ups you could do, how many, not push-ups, but bench presses you could do, how many squats you could do, how fast you could run the 50-yard line. This is back in the 70s. You had to run the 50-yard line, the 50-yard dash. And shit, I was the top dog in that grade. Walked in there and lifted 315 pounds with no problem. Squatting forever. Endless chin-ups, vertical leap, 13 years old, 36 inches. And I was only 5'3" then. I've grown since. I'm a full 5'5" now. I'm here to say. For real, right? Because I was drinking milk like that old commercial and stuff. Oh, you might be laughing at me now, this old big old voluptuous woman, this little skinny old boy, but I'm drinking milk, Anyway, that was me, and I'm still drinking milk, y'all. I got one more inch coming, I know. Anyway, the point is, those were the things that built us. Hard work. So now take us today where that dynamic has been removed. Fathers from the home, mothers out, fathers from the home in one way, right? Running the streets, prison, whether unjustly imprisoned or not, the father's presence has been taken from the home to where a single parent is the norm. People like are in awe with it. Oh, what, you with both of your parents are still together? So that element changed something. Then you got the mothers taken out as well, because why? She's a single parent, so now she's working. The kids are all and entirely what? Unsupervised, but unsupervised doesn't mean just unwatched. It literally means what? It literally means unprepared. Nobody's investing anything into the children but poisoned food, poison boxed ingredients, poison canned ingredients, and that's it. And that's messing them up. So here, these are the specimens that's coming from the world into this classroom setting. So we have a platform that we've been lacking, that we have to what? That the Most High taught us to put together, that takes broken adults and rebuild them. Because that's what we all are. We're broken adults. We got broke as children, but we came in as adults. But we're broken adults, man. Now imagine we're broken adults, and so now whereas the lessons that would have gotten in at childhood, y'all laughing, we ain't just broke adults, we are broken adults, right? And that which we would have gotten, why do I say broken adults? Because the things that we are lacking were designed to be given to us in childhood. You guys know that, right? Real quick, I'm gonna show you something. Go to Ecclesiastes chapter, in the Apocrypha, chapter 25. Let me get mine. Chapter 25. And you're going to read Yatazar. Am I in the right chapter yet? Yes, verse 3. Ecclesiastes chapter 25 and verse 3.
Ecclesiastes chapter 25 and verse 3. If thou hast gathered nothing in thy youth, how canst thou find anything in thine age?
Now it ain't said it's impossible, but it does ask the question. If thou hast gathered nothing in thine youth, how shalt thou gather anything in thine age? When it says how shalt thou gather anything in thine age, that means with what effort? What is it going to take to put something in you that was supposed to be put there as a child? So that's why we're broken. And we're broken. Because all the things that we were supposed to get, we didn't get as children. We didn't get anything. If we didn't grow up in this, we didn't get anything. That's the reality. So how do we come in now? And listen, and that's why, once again, transparency, meaning realism, meaning sincerity, meaning openness is important. Because if you come in making it a point to hide your fallibilities, making it a point to distance yourself so that no one will really come to know you, not even through talking, just through simple observation. If that becomes your goal, then you're cheating yourself because you're making it less likely that you make it. And the Most High brought you in to give you a shot to make it. And we all make it through servitude. We all make it through service to the body. We need one another, and we don't know that we need one another. So the Most High takes this knowledge, creates a circumstance that we end up building a platform of interdependency or codependency. That means we all end up needing one another, needing one another's input, needing one another's contribution, and needing one another's presence to exercise everything that we're learning on. Like you don't run around here by yourself and these all these cats that be against camps. Well, how the hell are they learning to be Christ-like? Christ wasn't no damn hermit loner. They just sit around behind a keyboard getting a bunch of scriptures, and then all somebody got to do is write F you, and then they go off the handle. Start looking for the nigga IP address and everything. Well, What? We get around the school. Come to a congregation so that you get accustomed to getting what? Offended, so that you get the opportunity as often as possible to learn how to forgive. Because that's the only way you get it. And that's the first step in becoming Christ-like. First is humility. Second, and not necessarily in this order, is servitude, y'all. Third, sacrifice. It ain't about you. All it's about is how you could be used. That's the reality. Now, you got to tell me about, well, how does that sound? The phrase, this ain't about you. All you have, you, and then they use me. Nigga, that's what you're here for, to be used. And it's not about you. It's about how you can be used. That's what I have to tell myself. It wasn't about me, and it's not. It's about how I could be used. And if that was the case, then it was about would I open myself up to the process that would make me meet or sufficient or appropriate for use. There's a problem. Can nobody use us in this work the way we are when we come out of the world? We're good. Literally, we come out of the world good for nothing. That's what I mean when I say broken adults. We can't marshal and master our own mind. The men have no grips on their own emotions. And that's what this is all about. Read that verse 1. Would you want to say something?
No.
Go ahead and read that verse 3 again.
Chapter 25 and verse 3. If thou hast gathered nothing in thy youth, how canst thou find anything in thine age?
There you go. And so here we're getting everything that we were supposed to get as from infancy on into adulthood. We're getting it after we've become corrupted adults. But why the Most High do that? Because he gave us, however, like for me, he gave me 24 years. I don't know how old all of y'all are, but however old you were when you came into this truth, he gave you that long so that you could show yourself you don't know what the hell you're doing with your life. That's what that's about. That's why we all come into the truth with our life in shambles. And it might not be as apparent, some of us as others. Now, everybody ain't coming in from, having been drug dealers and coming out of jail. Some of us come out of university and just exercise everything that perverted that you could do in the university. That was my experience. I ain't come off the streets. I saw what the streets did to my older brother and my younger brother. I'm like, no, I'm gonna pick a more serene setting to do my evil. And that was the college campuses and universities and church. The most nefarious setting of them all, church. And the Most High gave me from when I became responsible for myself, 19 years old to 24, that's 5 years to screw my life up once I was accountable for myself. Once I put out the foster system, had to make my own decisions, it only took 5 years to be homeless. It only took 5 years for me to be sitting in a garage, with no restroom and no knowledge and no purpose. But with a great job. But the decisions that I made were so destructive, so self-destructive that even though with a good job, had transportation, had a nice Jeep and a motorcycle. And all I would do was go to the park and back to my garage. Because I didn't know what the hell I was doing and I didn't know how to think. And I was a broken adult. That's how we all come in. And it took that long for me to see that I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how to think. My decisions. And even when I decided to clean myself up at 19, I was, that when I found out I had a daughter. So now, somebody's depending on me. Somebody out there depends on me, needs me. And shit got worse. Because why? Because nothing had been put into me from infancy to 18. So no matter how much I wanted to do right, because now I got a daughter, I wasn't equipped to do it because I had gathered nothing in my youth. And that's why the question is how? Meaning how, what platform, what arena, what tool, what circle of people, what experience is going to be used to give you anything that you hadn't acquired as a child? So that means, why is that important with our servitude? Well, that's for me. That's for me to know this is who I have to service. This is who I have to what? Be. This is why I have to be patient. Because just like me, they're coming in my condition. And the only thing that was the only hope I had was that the people that had what I needed also had the patience. They also what? Had the tolerance until I began to show signs of development. What is it that they needed aside from what they were teaching me? They needed the patience to know that what? Just like themselves, this development happens in time. And that's why you have to be in the mind of a servant. This is not, once again, it's not about you. So you're going to be offended for the rest of your life for the sake of the people that need to be developed. Rather people come in this, to this work and get offended and leave too often. They don't know why they're here. You're here for someone to exercise themselves into improvement against you. You're here for someone to use you as an instrument, as a workout machine in the gymnasium of character. And if they don't have you to offend for you to forgive, if they don't have you to offend them for them to forgive, they're not going to develop. That's why you can't do this alone. That's why you can't do this by yourself. Go back to chapter 12, and from there, chapter 13. And you read all the way to verse 15, right?
Yeah.
Go ahead now and we'll read verse 15 one more time, and then we're going to go to Philippians 2.
John chapter 13 and verse 15. For I have given you an example that you should do as I have done to you.
So check this out. These are scriptures that should be posted on our wall. Not the whole verse, just John chapter 13, verses 5 through 15. And then you put underneath servitude, how to. Because that's what he's letting us know. And he was the Lord, and he is the Lord. Now, from there, go to Philippians chapter 2 and start off at verse 1. We're going to read verses 1 through 8. And the reason why we got to exercise so much patience is because from 1988 up until now, 2021, I'm just now really seeing, and I'll say the same thing next week. Next year, if we're still here, I'll say, man, and it's just now getting clear, because it is. And it makes me ashamed, Yetazah, for not having been more consciously patient, for not having been more aware, because I was being patient, but not out of the right spirit. Nigga being patient because nigga gotta wait. You gotta wait. You can't speed nobody, but what I really needed to have was the patience where I want to wait. I want to give the brother, I want to give his sister the time that she needs to develop. But in that time, that sister or that brother needs as many opportunities, right, to have her thing, to have his things brought to their attention. And that only comes by being in the presence of one another, taking on some responsibility. Like we be having these y'all know, you guys had the Passover time come around, and the sisters be working on the garments and stuff. Listen, they need that, not just that time of year. If it were possible to have something that they would always be there, because that setting, I know it because I used to do it. That setting makes you patient. But at the same, I'm talking about from the teacher, from the person, whoever's the person in charge, and making sure that the patterns are being drawn out right, and that the things are being, all aspects of putting these garments together are being performed correctly. But then the person that's being taught they have to be humble and be a student, and be shown that they don't know what they're doing. And then there's a level of work ethic, punctuality. We said we want to start at 7:30. Okay, well then we're gonna make adjustments. We might have to start at 8 o'clock or 8:30 because people need time to get on from work. Get the family fed, and then be here. And at the same time, now that's the time of year where it's a sacrifice. So you're talking about long hours, frustration, being shown, or being able to be shown how to put these garments, how to sew, where you make your mistakes, handling the scrutiny, handling the constructive criticism. because that's how your work ethic is worked on, through scrutiny. In all aspects, we can't be a better version. We can't work on being a better version of ourselves without being around one another and without having some need that brings about the opportunity to create something where we have to provide for ourselves. And then now that makes us all as a unit, collectively or as individuals, have to work on our minds and our deeds and our thoughts so that the Most High will bless us as an individual and will bless us collectively. That means we have to be right in the mind, in the spirit, in our intentions. And that's what these campaigns do, man. So now you got the brothers that have an internal campaign of what? Of doing what it takes to keep the doors to the school open. And not just keeping the doors to the school open, but building. Building. That's what this is about. Amiyetazah, go to Philippians chapter 2 and start off at verse 1.
Philippians chapter 2 and verse 1. If there be therefore any consolation in Yahushua, if any comfort of love.
Listen to this. This is talking to us. If there really was, if you really believe in Christ and you really have been consoled, if this word really has been, this experience really has been a consolation to you. Let me drink this water, y'all, if I don't forget. Because that's what it's supposed to be. People get, I don't know what time, I guess it's for people that feel like that this is so burdensome. You have to ask yourself, what happens? What happens from the time that a person comes into the truth and they came in because of whoever it was that was used to introduce them to Christ, or however it happened. They're here and they're excited. What happens between that and the moment where all of a sudden now this is a burden to them? How does this become a burden? And I can tell you how it becomes a burden. How it becomes a trial, a mighty stone of trial, like it says in chapter 6 of Ecclesiastes. It's because of what I've been breaking down. It's the level of the more we learn, we get to a point where we continue to receive information, but now we're picking and choosing. We don't entirely We don't entirely embrace the fact that we're servants. The fact that we're prisoners, because that's what Paul referred to himself as. I, therefore, the prisoner of the Most High, do beseech thee. It comes from fighting against the fact that it has to be this way. That's another thing. How come it got to be like this? Why does it have to be so hard? That's the person feeding their soft side. That's the person feeding their worldly weakness. I mean, why does it have to be like this? Because nothing can get built if it's not like this. And what do you mean this? This ain't hard. It ain't no harder. It's easier than it was in the world. But it's our perspective that be off. If this really is a consolation, go ahead, Amiyetazah.
Philippians chapter 2, verse 1. If there be therefore any consolation in Yahushua, if any comfort of love, if any fellowship of the Spirit, if any bowels and mercies, fulfill ye my joy, that ye be like-minded, having the same love, being of one accord, of one mind.
So these are the conditions of our servitude. That if we really are, if this word coming to us has served as a consolation, if this word really listen, it says comfort of love, right? If any fellowship means friendship in the spirit, the congregating of friends. Like Paul in chapter 4, it might be chapter 3, chapter 3, where Paul refers to the type of friendship, how he became friends with Christ. He says he wanted to know the fellowship of his sufferings. What is it about the sufferings that bring people together to become friends? And I can tell you what it is that in those sufferings, you become what? Reliant on one another, and you come through. You serve one another in those darkest moments, in those lowest points. They don't be the highs. The highs, you can enjoy them with anybody. Who will walk with you through the persecution? Who will walk with you through the flames? Who will endure, right, the floods of persecution and affliction against you? With no one but a true friend. That's what fellowship is. If there be any fellowship in the spirit, meaning if we really have what? This friendship by way of what we're being taken through. Because I'm going through this. I may not physically be there with you and everybody that I came to the truth with, and everybody that I haven't come into the truth with. But by virtue of going through the same experience, that's fellowship. That's supposed to make us friends. So how do brothers come into the truth and allow something as necessary as mistakes to drive a wedge between your friendship? Because that's some bullshit. How does somebody, how does somebody come into this truth and be prepared for what is inevitable suffering? And then when you start suffering, you no longer have a friendship. I'm telling you what it is. That is a spirit. That's a soul who is at war with his calling, who hasn't accepted and embraced that this is the nature of it, and that this is how it has to be, and that this is the only way it can be gotten through. He's at war with that. And they haven't accepted the conditions, not of mine, of their own servitude. You got to keep telling yourself that. You have to know that you're a servant. Then you have to go and to fulfill the conditions of your servitude. You got to fulfill, the scriptures refer to that as striving lawfully. You got to do it the way Christ said is supposed to be done. And then he came and showed us with his own life. Then he brought up normal guys like us, fishermen and publicans, meaning cats that work for the government collecting taxes. And they showed us. Everyday Joes with everyday jobs showed us that they did what Christ did, so we could do what Christ did. Remember, these cats, all they did was fish. But if they could do it, I could do it. That's why the Most High raised them up. So that he raised up Christ, then he raised up others so that we could see them in us and ourselves in them. And to know that they showed us that we could do it. After Christ showed us that we could do it, then they showed us that we could do it. So we could do it. So this is where he says, if there's any fellowship in the spirit, people don't be understanding that. Because what is the spirit? Fellowship is friendship. I mean, you have to do me a favor. Let's actually get more on that. Go to that reference and look up fellowship. Fellowship in the spirit. Because it's not talking about the spirit and there's just some nebulous, there's like a cloud. And that cloud, there's a fog, there's a mist. And that fog, when you walk in it, you're in the spirit. It ain't talking about that. It's talking about the experience. It's talking about those occasions, the whole process through which the Spirit of Christ is put on you. It's not an event. It's a series of events. It's a life. Fellowship. Listen to this. Companionship. See, that's friendship. Society, consort, mutual association of persons on equal and friendly terms. Familiar intercourse, meaning interaction. Right? Then it goes into use the scripture. Have no fellowship, which means what? Have no companionship with the unfruitful works of darkness. So if the unfruitful works of darkness we're not supposed to have friendship with or fellowship with, then what are the fruits? What works are we supposed to have? Works of Christ. That's the spirit. It goes back to Galatians chapter 5 and Romans chapter 8. Thank you, Amir. As a matter of fact, let me read on. Verse number 2, association, confederacy, combination. And it goes on to number 3, partnership, joint. What is our joint interest? A joint interest is salvation. but what it takes to be saved, serving the needs of the body, right? Partnership, joint interest, as in fellowship. Listen to this, and this is ours. As in fellowship in pain. That's the cross of Yahushua. That's good enough on me, Yetas. I thank you. So that's the fellowship of the Spirit. The Spirit is talking about the experience that the Most High is leading us all through, that is characterized by suffering, that is identified, right, marked by sacrifice and suffering, loss. All of that are just how we execute our service. So verse 1 is saying, if this experience, if this knowledge have actually affected you like this, then verse 2, fulfill ye my joy that ye be like-minded. We should all be thinking the same. So why is it that there's a conflict of what? Of almost doctrinal. Now, we'll speak the same thing, Yetazah, but when I say a conflict, a doctrinal conflict, that means how to go about and executing what we're learning. And I'm going to tell you, it comes from not accepting that that's the way it is. Then you go to show the brothers, you got to show the sisters the scriptures, and then guess what happens? They reject it because they want to maintain their own paradigm. They want to maintain their own way of doing things. Then guess what happens as a young man? You don't stay young. That's why you got to get this when you're young. This is why I'm a Yetazah. You got to thank the Most High, because I do all day, every day, that coming up in the truth when I was young was hard. It wasn't hard. It was demanding. Like hard would be lifting the carp off of a baby without the adrenaline rush. So it was demanding. And it was. And the demand was that the things that we had to perform and do, you could only do them if you were sincerely in this. This experience for me hasn't been anything that can be faked. You understand? So that set the template for what would be my work ethic, how hard I was driven, how demanding my teachers were over me, how unyielding they were when they said, this is how it has to be. That set the template for my work ethic. If you don't get that as a young man, or if you reject it, you won't have it as an older man. And like you've been hearing me say lately, you cannot, no one can pass on a torch that you have not carried. You can't pass on a torch that you haven't carried. You can't what? You can't teach somebody what you didn't execute yourself. Yes, philosophically, yes, ideologically, you can tell them, you can share the information with them, but there comes a time in the transferring of the information that the Most High brings about the circumstance that you have to show them. You have to lead them through it, through actions. And if you haven't done that, it's not going to work through you. And this is why you'll have brothers, we all teach the same thing, and then some of us get works done. Some of us, the Most High, put it like this, the Most High in Christ blesses the work of our hands, and others, they don't, the work of their hands aren't blessed because their hands ain't doing much work. And that's a combating philosophy in Israel, that things don't have to be this hard, that you don't have to give that much, that you don't have to be striving for perfection. Now, the argument won't say those words on me yet. So they won't say, hey, you don't have to strive for perfection. They just have they execute or demonstrate a dynamic or a work ethic that is lesser than what the opposing party is doing. And then you have to go and follow. I don't mean physically follow them like like Sherlock Holmes or something, but you just have to watch their works. You have to watch the fruits. Watch for the fruits of any given congregation or individual's labors. And the fruits of those labors, I'm not talking about material, I'm talking about the development of the men, talking about the development of the women. That's what I'm speaking of. That's that, because it's through that that the Most High brings about the what? The material things that you need to get the work done. And then all that means is now you're responsible for more. Now that there's a new school, speak of that. Say you guys want to take what you have and build a new school upon it. Do you know what type of undertaking that is? The type of commitment, the type of sacrifice, the type of relinquishing of one's own purpose so that the Most High will work through you to fulfill his? The Most High ain't dealing with no mediocrity. So this is talking about fulfill ye my joy that you be like-minded. That means what is our purpose, Ak? We're here to teach. We're here to build. We're here to be used to provide a setting and services, a teaching setting and services that people who we don't even know yet are going to need it. Literally, I'm looking on the screen right now, and out of everybody that's there, when I was there, there's only one person sitting in that congregation that I personally knew. That was in this truth, and that's your pie back in the corner. But still, there's a school for y'all. We know you who would be. We just knew that you would. Like that nigga in the movie. They get that from us. Build it and they'll come. You know what I mean? That movie, Field of Dreams, right? I never saw the movie, but they always show that part in whatever scenes, right? Build it and they'll come. But that's the truth. Build a school and the spirits will come. The Most High he will usher them there. That's what our job is. That's the like-mindedness. Then the next level, Amiyatazar, is if you can't see how something is being done, or if you disagree, then follow until you can see, or go show how it's supposed to be done. Be the example. That's how you do it. You don't sit back and just get a little gathering and criticize every little move, undermine. Yes, you got to come forward so we can hear you, because you know the sound be muddled from over there.
It makes sense if you disagree with the model, we'll create a counter model so people can see the difference.
Not even that. And listen, yes, but I would just title it different. I don't mean not what you said. I wouldn't call it a counter model. I would just call it another model. Because if it's counter, that means it's going against what we're trying to do. But this person is not saying he's going against it. This person, this party is saying it's not, it could be done better. It's saying it doesn't have to be like this. So then just go and show me how it's supposed to be. Because I've taken things from the past and adopted them. Yes, I had that struggle. Shit, but y'all have no idea. Yes, I was driving away all my clients with what he was doing. Well, he was driving basically all the ones that they had no money and putting all the ones that did. But based on what our objective was, his decision was the right decision and mine was wrong. And I had another brother, I said, well, keep him on a leash. And the more that I saw his way work until his way was the way that we were actually building, until I saw that, I kept him on a leash. Then after that, he never heard no argument of that at all. Then I began to work on his character and how he officiated, how he executed his servitude, his moral execution, his intention, cleaning up his intentions. You understand? But I'm a Yatazar. You care to speak on that? Just, we went through that. Where I'm a Yatazar, we got these goals that these people buy 1 Quetzal incense sticks and 75 Quetzal roll-ons, we ain't gonna build shit. And I remember saying, brother, we can't be greedy. I'm a Yatsu at Kawakab. They got the money, man. This is we're talking about the Europeans and Edomite. They got all the money. Little by little, his way became the model, simple and plain.
Yeah, but the thing is,
go ahead.
But the thing is that wasn't me trying to create a counter model. That was more me, after being in for a while, having my spirit and my mind worked on, and the Most High coming through me, coming to me, sorry, the Most High compelling me to do certain things. The Most High was pushing me, to do those things. I gave myself over to the Spirit, and it was really, I was operating out of the spirit of wanting to be used to to build and
Exactly.
to take what we was doing further. It
Let me
was
say
very
this,
similar.
that's why I checked. I want you to continue. That's why I checked the way out and said you can't call it a counter model because the objective is not contrary to what the first model is.
Exactly.
Whenever something comes up and somebody's, it's not a. See, that's the point. We can't take it as an attack. It's not a counter model. They're saying, yes, I have a better way, or probably a more effective way of achieving what we're trying to do. But if things become so adamant, then what? Then show us. And that's what Yatazar did. He showed me. But listen, but not after having what? Not before having allowed himself to be worked on. Go ahead, Yatazar.
Yeah, exactly. So it was really more of a case of coming in and observing and studying what was being done, learning everything I needs to be, I needs to learn, and then seeing, okay, this is what could be improved, and like I said, just giving myself over to, and it wasn't a case of me coming in and saying, oh, this is wrong. I wasn't being critical. I wasn't coming and saying, oh, you guys shouldn't do this way, or you guys could do that. No, I basically just said to myself, I'm going to do this.
Right.
So there wasn't, it wasn't like I wasn't putting anybody down. I wasn't criticizing or critiquing the existing model. It was more of a case of I'm going to work harder. That's really what it was, because initially we were, it was a very sort of reactive approach in the sense how we were waiting for people to come, but the Most High put a spirit on me to be more proactive, and that required a lot more effort. It required, crossing the road. It required, hitting people up. It required being more fearless.
It required a level of aggressiveness too, remember?
Yeah, exactly. It required, more aggressiveness, more, more confidence, more faith. The Most High was really taking it to the next level. And so, yeah, it's definitely not about being, it's not about being, contrary. It's not about creating another model. It's more of a case of, like I said, submitting and then letting the Most High work through you, to maybe suggest additional ideas. I remember Shamshuan, when I would speak with Shamshuan, he would tell me about, so many great ideas, that he had, that, when he shared it with me, I was like, wow.
This was when you was in Texas?
Yeah, exactly. And I was in Texas, and I was like, wow, that would really take this, their operation to the next level. Unfortunately, he was being stifled and those ideas weren't being listened to. But he wasn't coming out of a contrary spirit or trying to create a contrary model. It was more of a case of, like I just said, he'd been in for a while, he'd submitted, and he could see, a bigger picture of what could be added, to this. But what these other brothers are doing, they're basically, just straight, operating out of a rebellious spirit.
Right.
They're basically just saying that no, this is wrong, and the thing that and what they're saying, like I said, is gonna create a weakening effect. It's just straight undermining, as opposed to what we were doing was making it stronger. As I said, it was requiring more effort, in the spirit, in the mind. It was refining. And so, yeah, definitely not creating a contrary model.
Now, we bring that out because I'm trying to give you an idea of what it tells us when it says that you be like-minded in verse 2. You understand? So that means when it says be like-minded, it's not saying that we all have to what? Think the same thing. It's talking about our objective. And so what keeps us working together and becoming more effective in our work? In other words, first of all, order. Order. Are you the top man? No? Then be quiet and follow the top man. Take your suggestions, make them clear, and then he makes the decision. That's the reality of it. If a person don't do that, that's his way of not being like-minded, because that's how the scripture. Now, when we come in, like-minded means we all agree to this. We all submit to the word. We all submit to what Christ showed us and taught us how it's supposed to be done. If you want to do it a different way, we are not like-minded because we think different. We're not like-minded because one of us is thinking right and the other one isn't. And then how do you gain? Let's say there's a top man. I'm going to use you again, Amiyah. Let's say there's a person in charge and you see a better way. Well, you got to do just what he talked about. He didn't make no argument. He just went out and did it and showed me that it worked. I'm coming in every hour checking the totals. I'm like, damn. Then I look on the paper and be like, brother, you got 250 for this damn roll-on? Like, yeah. All right, brother, be careful, you know. Well, literally. But he wasn't saying nothing. He was just going out and doing it. Then I'm like, brother, you took this, you got 350 this time for this damn roll-on? I'm like, yeah. I don't know where they from. He's like, Europe, man. These guys, they was from Norway. I mean, you have to say from Sweden, they're from England, Germany, Austria, Finland. They're from all over the world. And I was like, all right, let's have a meeting. Rashwan, we're gonna start doing things. Amiyah got the heat turned up on everybody. But it was working, and we was getting shit knocked out. Amiyah, you'd be shocked, man. By my side here, I still keep the totals from 2004 and 2005, 2006, man. The whole year.
Yeah.
Right by my desk, because that was amazing, were they not?
Yeah.
You know?
It's powerful.
It was powerful, but let me say this. And so that was an example of how things, couldn't be, how can I put it? In other words, a different approach taken, but we still like-minded. Because
Yeah.
what was the like-mindedness in? The like-mindedness was in an agreement on what our objective was and how to do it based on the scriptures. But then what? Then me, being humble and say, okay, let me see. Let me see. I remember I went out one day and our store was right next door to the bank that we banked at. We had a couple of banks that we dealt with. And Amiyah wasn't in his post across the street, and I come up and I see him walking up and down the bank line with sticks of incense to everybody. I'm like, Amiyah, you can't be bothering these people in line, man. So you can't be, in Spanish, no puedes estar molestando a esa gente. Well, you got to call state, you got to call it. And he was like, Bacau Cobb. And I'm like, what? He put his hand in his pocket and jiggled it. Then his pocket was way down. And I looked at Rashwan, I said, keep your eye on him, man. Keep him on the lead. I'll never forget that day.
Yeah,
listen, and what happened was, I remember how it started. You and Rashwan used to be going at it about who could get the tourists to buy you more biscuits and ice cream. Remember that?
Ice cream, yeah.
And I said, hold on, what? I walked in, they had a heated argument. Yeah, but I got this one from them, and she bought me 2 of them. Oh, yes, well, I have one, and she brought me some biscuits to go with my ice cream. Biscuits and cookies for them, right? And I'm like, what the F is wrong with y'all? I said, I'll tell you what, you want to impress Christ? You want to impress me? See who can get Esau to buy more of the product. And that's when that was the phrase that set Amiyah in hyperspace. I ain't gonna lie.
Yeah.
But then I didn't like his approach because he was beastly. He was aggressive. He had everything he needed, but he wasn't refined. And it took letting him go so that he could have the freedom to make the mistake, so that I could just come in and say, keep doing what you're doing, but now you can't do this. Brother, you can't be trying to draw every conversation to sex when it comes to the women. You can't be doing such and such like this. He knew what he was doing, but he was rough cut. But that was after I finally conceded, okay, we're going to do it that way. Now we took that way and we ended up polishing him so much. Listen, and Rashwan, The store was when people from all over the world was coming and taking pictures, and our store was popping up in exotic magazines all around the world under the arts and craft or under the culture section. Literally, they were having interviews with reporters. People were coming and be blown away. But it also was the school, right over on the other side. Open the next door, and there you come into another world as well, getting taught. So we were in the same mind. We had clashes, but the clashes were always over what? The best way to get this job done. No, he never tried to undermine me. Once I saw that my presence would affect what his job was, I stopped doing it. I stopped. There would be times when he'd have a client and I'd come on into the store and the spirit would change like that. They'd leave and walk out. And I'm thinking the first time, Then the second time, then the third time, I said, damn, I keep fucking up the damn, that was my word. That's just shit. So whenever I see him, if he wasn't on the street, I knew he was inside, and I wouldn't even go into the store. I would go into the school side. So I had to know that was my way of being respectful to his office, to how the Most High was using him, just like he wouldn't interrupt or do anything to counter the effect of what the Most High was doing through me, which was the teaching and the decision-making process. He never came in and said, if the Spirit showed me we're going to bring these into the product line, he never said no. He said, yeah, everything was always, I can move them, hell yeah, get them. It was always, because he grew to the point where he understood that the Most High was working through me as a visionary.
Yeah.
It's just, now that's verse 2, y'all, I'm trying to show you. So when you get elements of the same camp, of the same congregation that can't do it like that or better, that's because in some of their minds, or all of their minds, or one of their minds, somebody's contrary. Somebody's not in the spirit of Christ. Because everything operates from the head down. I don't give a shit what people get pissed off, but it operates from the head down.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to just hearing you, just recount the story. Like I miss those days so much. Like I really.
I'm just more. I'll be right back. Go ahead.
Okay. Like those days for me, those were not only my my formative years, in the truth and in the spirit, but I can generally say the best days of my life, in the sense how I was so, the Most High used me to become so powerful. Like that's when I became just a man, really, because like I said, I was playing semi-professional football, came to at 23, and then the Most High used Kyle Cobb to really just instill in me all of these these traits that we read about in the scriptures, and this is why I always exhort all you guys, all the young men, that just submit. Like I didn't know what I was getting into. I only thank the Most High for putting the spirit on me to look in the way that I did, because any other way would not have worked. It wouldn't have benefited me. It wouldn't have benefited so many people, that I've counseled, the wisdom that I've acquired, from, being with Kawakar, from, just looking into the spirit. Like I said, hasn't just benefited me, so many people. But I look back at those days with so much joy, to the point now, because I can tell you the benefits of locking in, and I can also tell you, the perils of not locking in and of not being of one mind. When you're the only reason why we were able to do what we did in terms of, what we achieved with the store, the amount of money that was, the Most I was bringing in, and just the growth that we saw, the students that we taught, was truly because of what we read in verse 2. We were like-minded. I was completely locked into Carl Cobb's vision. I was completely locked into the goals. Carl Cobb would say to me or to us, this is the goal. This is how much we need to make. And my mind was, okay, cool, how are we gonna achieve it? How are we gonna get the goal? It was never a case, and then Carl Cobb would come with these higher goals, these higher totals. And there was never any doubt in my mind. There was never any doubt that it couldn't be achieved. In my mind, if that was the Most High speaking through Karakab, that was the Most High saying to us that, okay, I want to do this with you guys, you know, and for us to achieve this, this is what amount of money needs to come in, you know. And so then when I heard that, it was a case, okay, cool, what needs to be done? And then it was always, okay, more faith, more effort, more work, more seriousness, more diligence, more concentration. Literally, I'll be on the street for 15 hours concentrating for the whole time. There was never like, you know, people would come to me. It got to the point where even, you know, Carl would come to me and wanted to talk with me, you know what I'm saying, to see how I was doing, you know, keep me in the right. I won't want it. Leave me alone. I'm in the zone, I'm in the spirit. You know, and I need to be focused on what I was doing, you know. And Coco would tell you the stories where, you know, he'll be talking and I'll be looking away, James, I won't be talking back. But and it wasn't out of disrespect, because I didn't want to let anyone walk past without hitting them up. I had to hit up every single person, because I was like, I don't know which person I'm saying the Most High's going to use, you know, to bring that hit through. So I was just beamed up. You know, I totally gave myself over. I was a machine, because I was like, we got to do this. My mind was just, and that's just that's my role in the body. That I just look into that. You know, but it's all that we are truly of one mind. Yes, I might do things differently, but it's still within that space of where we have a goal. I just see, because the way the Spirit of the Most High is putting me, I see a different way of achieving or getting to the goal. But it's still, Kalkab was always leading. He was always guiding me and directing me as to what needs to be done. I never rebelled. You know, I never went against what he wanted. I never went against, you know, where his direction. You know, I was just looking to the Spirit, and the Most High would tell me, okay, this is what you got to do, and I'll just give myself over. And like I said, that period was so joyous. I was so, you know, it was difficult, but I was so happy. You know, when I look back on it now, like, my life is miserable now being back in England. Because what eventually happened was we were no longer one of the same mind. You know, I then deviated, to saying, eventually, from that vision, from that path. And it cost me, you know, 2 years in prison for something I didn't do. A serious chastisement. But the Most High was showing me that when you're locked in, when you follow, I'm saying, I will work through you to do amazing things. When you're like-minded, I love it. That's what the Most High was showing me. I placed you in Guatemala. There were Israelite brothers in London.
Yeah.
I even tried to, you know, I tried to, you know, not join their camps. I didn't really know what it was about, but I approached them. I'm saying, because they was on the street teaching. I went up to them. They weren't having it. They was like, nah, you know, Israelite. And I was like, cool. What about my business? But the Most High could have sent me anywhere in the world. You had camps in America. You had camps all over. But the Most High sent me to Guatemala. The Most High was showing me, I sent you to Guatemala to be with this guy. I handpicked this guy for you. And then the Most High then showed me, like I said, when we're like-minded and when we're locked in, what he'll do through us. And then, like I said, I lost sight of the vision. I became rebellious.
And I can tell you when, because these are going to be the most challenging times. His challenge became, once the Most High removed the store as a platform, and we had to exercise faith to see where the next step was, and that was where it was most challenging for him. But that venue, that paradigm, for what he had and for what I had served its purpose, and the Most High was taking us to a dimension, a new paradigm, where we wouldn't be as visually gratified, meaning our setting. In other words, we had to exercise. See, at that point, the faith was exercised. Everything revolved around a daily total. We knew that the Most High was with us based on the total, or it came in or it didn't. And we made the necessary adjustments and always brought it back to where it needed to be. That's how we knew that was our metric. Then the Most High removed that because he wanted our faith in him to be less based on something material and more based, it was just literally a more demanding spiritual setting. And that's where he wavered. And guess what? He would have came through with flying colors had he continued to do what he did when he first got it. And that was follow the vision. But the Most High, the scriptures say that every branch that bringeth forth a good tree, him the Most High purged, that he might bring forth more. So the Most High was taking that loss of the store to purge me and him so that we could actually give, because it took that, because from that paradigm, we was both giving our all. But the Most High still wants more. And to help you see the more that you can't see, he takes the platform that you can see, because it's no longer about that now. But so they think it's about this, but it's not about this. It's about the next level of work that I'm going to do for you that requires a purer, cleaner vessel. So I got to take you guys through this. That's what it was about. And this is listen, we could go on forever on verse 2 of what it's like to be like-minded, I'm telling you.
Yeah.
But it all revolves around, number one, the word of the Most High is the template. Number two, we're all servants. We're here to serve the will of the Most High. Number three, you can't deviate from the order.
Yeah.
The only reason you guys are still sitting there is because a war did. When I say sitting there, I don't mean in the truth. I mean in this building, because a war didn't deviate. And he sure had cause to question and counter every move of the previous steward, but he didn't. They went head and toe to toe, but he never fell out of order, never. He didn't even make the mistake that I made. He never fell out of order. He did what it took to keep the place from falling, and therefore inherited the stewardship there. And all the guys that's talking about how much of whatever he is and however much of whatever he's not, where are they when it came time to get a new school? Where were they when we were so far behind on the lease that we were 2 and 3 months behind? Where were they? Where are they now? See, criticize, I'm like that nigga in my son, we like this the funny part of the movie of Django, when the lynch mob is sitting around. All y'all do is criticize. You know, my wife stayed up all night making these masks for you ungrateful sons of bitches. And all you can do is criticize. Well, that's the truth. This brother was doing everything in the world to keep the place, to keep a school open for people to come and get taught, to make sure, to fight like hell, to get the brothers paid, to increase their payment. And all these other cats could do is criticize, right? But not come in and say, well, here, let me put my hand to the plow. Let me contribute. That's how you know it was a contrary mind. Because you could say, you know what, man, this thing don't got to be like this. Then put your hands to the plow and contribute to the improvement. Because that's what Amiyata's did. And that's what Awar did. And that's what Shamshuan did. Contribute to even though y'all tell you about what was holding him back, and it was him, not the work. You gotta have faith in the Most High.
Yeah.
And when we do things based on the scriptures, that's why I said embrace our servitude. Because why? Because the nature of the servitude is to be afflicted so as to make you dig deeper into yourself to exercise the word. That's what affliction, it's called.
Nice, frozen. And just to add, he's frozen, he'll be back in a sec. He was talking about embracing the servitude. Like, that's so important. Like, the scriptures starts off in verse 2 saying, fulfill ye my joy. And as I mentioned, that when you do submit and embrace the servitude, it does become joyous. At first, it's grievous. At first, it's hard to your flesh because you're not used to it. At first, it's demanding because it's a workload you've never put in before. So at first you're like, oh, why does it have to be this hard? Why can't I have, all this other stuff? Why can't it just be this way? You might think, oh yeah, no, if we did it like this and like that, and you might not truly see and understand the work that's being done through you and on you, when you're going through the process. And this is why I say it's so important just to submit. And as Kalkab said, you got to have faith in the Most High. Because imagine just being on the street in front of a store, dealing with customers, that with the Most High built my spirit up, that the Most High gave me so much wisdom. Who would have thought just by being on the street, talking to people, would have got you all this wisdom? So you guys might think, being in front of being on the cart in a shopping mall or doing, moving, how's that going to give you wisdom? But it's the Most High Holy Spirit upon you when you submit, when you follow, when you humble yourself. That's how you get the Spirit. That's how you get the wisdom. And another reason why I say so joyous is because when you are locked in, everything else just falls. Like even the woman that the Most High sends you, for those of you that are single, will be on point. She'll be a reflection of who you are to the Most High in the Spirit. She'll be a reflection of who you are to the elder. She ain't be perfect, but she'll be way better than I'm saying these women in the world that you might be lusting after. But it's because the Most High is pleased with your effort. He's pleased with how you're humbling yourself and following, the order, how you're being like-minded. Everything else falls into place.
Right. And then going on the note that you're mentioning, then that woman become another one of your responsibilities. And you have to craft her. You have to take the scriptures and handcraft her in the image of
Exactly.
And that adds another dimension to you.
Yep.
It's why you ain't got no time for doing all that. It's why abstinence is the only way that this thing can be effectively executed.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Ak.
Yeah, and I was just saying when you went about it being joyous and just why you need to embrace our servitude. Because I was saying to them that while you're going through the process, you might not be able to see the change that's being done upon you and the wisdom that you're getting and the refinement that's happening to you. And I was saying to them that's why it's important, just to have faith and really really lock in. Because like I said, it's only through time, that new man, really begins to manifest himself. But it comes from really, locking in. And I say this all the time. For you guys, it's so easy. All you've got to do is follow. It's so easy. Just literally just humble yourself and follow the instructions and apply yourself, apply your mind, in the role. So if you're told to do something, do it with all your mind, do it with all your heart, do it the best of your ability.
Right. Don't be sitting back and just doing the bare minimum and have to come back. Make it so that your intention is that when scrutinized, you gain the trust of the person that appointed you to that. And so they don't have to be looking over your shoulder. But
exactly.
You know the person is reluctantly because you have to look over their shoulder. You're supposed to when they first receive something. They have to be scrutinized to make sure that the quality of work that's supposed to be done is being done. But a person that really whose heart is in it, my teacher never had to come over me and do that. I'm not going to lie to you. They would come, and then when they would see that the job was being done and that I had a higher standard in many cases than they did, they would leave me alone because that's what they wanted.
Exactly. That's one of the things that I used to do. So, for example, if Kalkab gave me an instruction to do, he might not put a time limit on it or duration, but I'll do it straight away because I knew there was a possibility I would forget, later. And that's really how I was just keeping my mind sharp, And so, like I said, it's about apply everything to apply yourself, because that's how your mind grows. That's how you grow in the spirit. because like I said, it's not about just going through the motions. Never go through the motions. You know, you don't. You like you can't half step in this thing. You know, so like I said, you got to have faith. You got to have diligence. You know, you got to have concentration. You know, but you know, you was mentioning earlier, when people don't grow, it's not because of the program. You know, it's not because of the process. It's because of themselves. It's because of their level of application, you know, that they're not putting in.
Right.
It's all you. You know, I wanted to grow. I wanted to, I'm saying, to be the best I could be. So that everything, every responsibility that was given to me, every opportunity, you know, I was trying to do it to the best of my ability. Every day I was trying to be better. Every day I was trying to work harder. You know, and that's really where the growth comes in. When the Most High sees you pushing yourself to the limit every single day, that's when, you know what I'm saying, you start getting that spirit. So if you're in the malls, you know, you want to be like, okay, cool, today I'm gonna do this. You know, I'm gonna refine my approach. I'm gonna try, if I was advised or counseled to talk a certain way, do that. You know, if I was advised, because that was my thing. You know, when I'd be selling, I would always try to lead it to, like, I was trying to get sex inside it, because I was just beastly. Then Carl would always check me. So then it became a goal to, okay, don't mention anything related to sex. Just keep it clean, you know. And that's what I was basically creating new habits, you know. I was changing my approach, and that's how I was changing myself. That's how that new man comes out, because when an elder counsels you on something, then you got to go away and apply that counsel to the best of your ability. You know what I'm saying? To then refine out, to purge out that, you know what I'm saying, that old version of you. You know, so whatever counsel is given to you, you've got to just like, all right, cool, I'm doing it every single time. You know, you can't be like, okay, cool, he said this, I'll do it later, or I won't bother. It's a case of, no, he said it once, he won't have to repeat himself. That's the mindset you got to be in. He wouldn't have to tell me again. And when you have that mindset, you're just growing each time. And then you'll find that the elder will see, okay, he's listening. You know, I can give him more responsibility.
Right.
I can give him more, because he knows how to follow instructions.
Right.
But you'll get some brothers where they're told something, you know, they don't take it seriously, and then, oh, they forgot what was told them to do. Then the elder's like, didn't I tell you to do this? No, didn't I tell you to do that? Why have we done this? You don't want to be hearing that.
And that's because in their mind, they was rejecting it anyway.
Yeah.
They think that it's you and not the Most High Christ talking through you, so or that their way is better. So they altogether forget it, or they go through the motions of doing it, but they didn't put any effort into doing it. And then they end up having to do it 3 times before you finally say, and that's what happened. I said, Yatsar, come here. You got this job now. This brother didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
Either he forgot or he did a piss poor job of it. I said, Yatsar, you got another response. It got to the point where the only thing this brother had to do was show up for work, and that was it. When he's the one that the Most High used to bring Yatsar into the truth and to Guatemala. And he passed through there as well, through Texas. He stayed way longer than Yatsar. Anyway, verse 3, read verse 2 one more time and then move on to verse 3.
Philippians chapter 2, verse 2. Fulfill you my joy, that you be like-minded, having the same love, being of one accord, of one mind.
Go ahead.
Verse 3, let nothing be done through strife or vainglory.
Listen to that. When it says let nothing be done through strife or vainglory, that's talking about all of our response, whatever it is we're doing. If you're in charge of the mall, if you're in charge of on the mark, if you're in charge of sewing, if you're in charge of making meals for the brothers, nothing is done. When it says vainglory, that means you're trying to get recognition for it. And because of that, that's where the strife comes in many cases. It'd be our pride. We ain't just doing it because we get the opportunity to be the servant. We're doing it because we want people to see that it was us.
Mm.
And that's where the strife come in. Because why? Because it's pride. And the scriptures tell you that's where pride enters in. That's where contention comes from pride. So nothing, but what is it that in what mind are we supposed to operate from? Continue that verse.
Let nothing be done through strife or vainglory, but in lowliness of mind, let each esteem other better than themselves.
And jump in whenever you feel you want the need, Yatsar.
Yeah, can I say one more thing? because you mentioned earlier about a war, fighting to get brothers more paid, stuff like that, which is great, right? But let me tell you how Carbonized dynamic. We
Yeah,
didn't take a payment. We didn't take a payment. Not 1 month. Do you know what I'm saying? The Carb said, "Oh, I'm gonna pay myself this salary," or I'm gonna say, "Yo, here's your salary." We didn't get paid. We did this right out of a love for Israel, because our mindset was we've got to build this camp. We've got to build a school because people are coming, and so it's a case of we've got to get this done as quickly as possible, right? Because people are coming, and so that meant making a sacrifice, a personal sacrifice. Right. And so I'm not saying that it's wrong for you guys, to want more money, right? But our mindset was, I'm gonna have what I need. So every single month, right, we had a roof over our heads. We would with the money, the most I would bless the store with the money, and out of that money, basically the rents will get paid. Right? Our food. We've mentioned to you on numerous occasions. Come October, when times were rough, we were living off of what, 30 quetzales a week, like $3 a week.
And it was from September, October, November, 25 quetzales a week. Somebody do that right now. If you got a calculator, do 25 divided by 7.5. And that's what we lived off of every year from September to November.
$3.33.
There you go.
Right.
Now it would be 25 quetzales per person. So that means if you had a house, like at the time, I had a household with Rylob and his mother. And so it was 3 of us. Now, what did that mean? That means we all got 7, we got 75, and Rashwan got 50. In other words, he got 25 and Rashwan got 25. And then during the plenty times of the years, the good times of the year, we got a little bit more. But my dynamic was this, because I was going by what the scripture said, let every man esteem another man better than himself. So they were more important to me. We went according to what was the most important thing. The most important thing was the store and the school, because that was the entity that we all depended on. That was the entity, that was the machine, that was the machine the engine to our building. Then after that, Rashwan and Amayatazar's rent came. Then after that, my rent came. Then, and then, like I said, when I say the store, that means all things pertaining to the store. That's talking about the utilities and everything, and the RIA, even RIA came before us. So that we finally pulled away from RIA from the product. Once the store shelves were full, the stocking room was completely full, literally up to the ceiling. And then we had another storage room that fed the stock room, that the stock room fed the store. Once them was filled, we didn't break rent. We continued to live humble. And we prayed and we asked the Most High what to do with the prosperity, what to do with the success. And he brought an opportunity for us to buy land. That's what we did the whole time. Because my job was to show Amayatazar that how to serve. So he didn't see, out of the whole 10 years, he never saw me go through a phase where I was fly, so to speak. I bought my shoes at Payless. I bought all my clothes. When I did buy clothes right around the corner at Del Oriente, remember that little joint?
Yeah.
Bought our belts up at the Mercado Municipal, and we lived humbly. Simple and plain, because we had and I'm still living like that. We still have the same objective. So the objective of a war is to look out for the men and to put the men first. That's what he's supposed to do. And then you have to see and benefit from the work of your hands so that you can understand how the Most High blesses work. That's the whole purpose of going through laborious work. That's what the Most High blesses. So in everything that's being done, there's a mentality that we have to operate in. There's a spirit. We say mentality, but the word mentality means the spirit of the operation. And it has to be in lowliness That means a servant. It says it can't be done through strife or vainglory.
Exactly.
It has to be done through what? The purpose that we've been called. It has to be treated like the Most High's endeavor, because that's what it is. Read on down, read verse 3 again.
Verse 3. Let nothing be done through strife or vainglory, but in lowliness of mind, let each esteem other better than themselves.
See, that means what? Let's look up esteem, because the last time I looked up esteem, it meant to regard to regard highly, or to regard with favor, right? To regard with respect and admiration. That's how you're supposed to feel about the other person, not you. You're not number one, they're number one. Now imagine if everybody in that room looked to the right, and the person to the right of them or to the left of them was number one in their eyes, and that you worked and you endeavored with that intention. Listen to this. Number one, to set a value on, whether high or low, to estimate, to value. That's code. Number two, to prize, to set a high value on, to regard with reverence. I'm gonna use number two. I'm gonna replace that with the whole phrase. It says, but in lowliness of mind, let each regard, let me find my place. Let each regard with reverence, let each regard with reverence, respect, or friendship, right? Each others better than themselves. That's what it's telling us. And I'm not going to lie to you, I hate to be using us as an example, but that's how we did it. When it came time to move, when we got hit, I made it a point to go look for them the best place that they could have. There was one time when we was all up in the same complex. Remember that at the Chernikovskis?
Yeah.
Then when we got reduced, we all ended up in one nice house over in La Candelaria. But not before we slept on floors, not before we lived in dust, roach, rat-ridden locations first to have to work through that.
Yeah.
And in each circumstance, I made it a point to, well, let me say this. It got so bad in one occasion thank you, Amiyatazar. When Rashwan came back from Texas after 6 months of having rejected what a war and Shamshawan was trying to teach him, I had to set up a really nice condominium so he could have, a nice place. We both lived there with both of us. Amiyatazar, this dude was such a damn ingrate. He was so damn lazy. He was so slothful and rebellious that the Spirit told me that's because he doesn't have the experience of building from the ground up. So whereas another man would have kicked him out and had him under the merit of his own work by what he brought in, I moved out. I said, we're both moving into the store. We moved and slept on the floor for a whole year and had to build our way back up out. And that's when you got here. That was the month you got here, October of 2003. But what was the whole purpose? The whole purpose wasn't to punish him for not knowing what, punish him for not knowing what he couldn't know unless he went through it. Yes, he went to Texas, but Texas was up and running. We had the school on Guadalupe, we had the men's house on Glenview, we had 4 or 5 locations. So he was being prepared to come down here and build. And the Most High showed me, then he have to build from scratch. You can't take him to a place that's up and running and have him stay there for 20 years. He still will come back not knowing how to build. The best I could hope for him is what? Amiyatazar coming from Texas at that time, coming back and knowing how to maintain. But we was in a building phase. So the Spirit told me, he said, you know what? He don't know how to build because he ain't never built. You have to show him how to build. When I say have to, meaning I had to, because if I didn't give it to him, Amiyatazar, then who was going to give it to him? Nobody. So I had to let my comfortable apartment go and sleep on the floor and get one little, you know, them little plug-in stoves that got two eyes.
Yeah.
Every day for a whole year, we had beans on one and rice on the other. If the total came in on a decent day, then the next morning we had some sour cream to go with them beans and rice. And we showered at La Fabrica. I would get up every morning, 5 o'clock, go shower at the Fabrica. That was a gymnasium, public gym. Take my shower, come back, be back by 5:30. It was blitzkrieg. He'd have to get there, come back, be there by 6. From 6 to 8, we had class. Then 8 o'clock, we opened up. This is what we did for 7 days a week. On Sundays, I'd go there and I'd be a little longer because that was the day I had long hair, and I'd have to go and braid my hair, wash my hair, and braid it. I should do my own jail braids out here. Come on back to the store. And when the Most High saw my effort and his resistance, that's when the Most High sent Amayatazah. The brother had to, he didn't have to, but he took off. Rashwan took off. And when he left, he was gone for about 3 months. He taught Amayatazah. He came, Rashwan came back. Then a month later, Amayatazah came. And then that's when all that thing that I was trying to put in Rashwan and he was resistant, Amayatazah absorbed. And the building, and Rashwan was still there contributing, getting down. But he was just losing more and more responsibility. And the responsibility, like Amayatazah, is what builds you. That's what builds you. I don't give a shit what no anybody, anyone, I don't care if you've been in for 30 years. If you ain't assumed responsibility for something to have to answer for its state, to have to answer for its condition, to have to give, whether in your mind or actually verbally, to have to give an account for the condition of something, you are not going to develop. You ain't going to develop. That's the difference between a man and a child. He answers for things. He has to give an account of the condition of a household, of the condition of a wife, of the condition of children. A child is the one that gets up, eats, sleeps, play video games, take a dump here and there, take a shower, go back to bed, get up in the morning, eat, sleep. That's a child. That's what make a child, that's how a young man child grows into a man. Over the years, he acquires more responsibilities. His mama, he's at an age now, his mama is not going to make up his bed. Dad, I want him making up his bed. Then his father goes and shows him how to make it first, and then expects to keep him to that standard. And like we all used to do, clean your room up. You want to push everything under the bed, and you have the blanket on your bed fall down all the way on that side so that nobody could just see under the bed. And we all did that. Who had beds? Yeah, I lived in homes where I slept on the floor under the piano. I kid you not. So that's what makes us develop. When we have to answer for something that's been committed to us. Now here we are. We have to answer for the state of the body because that's what's been committed to us. And you got men that'll criticize, like I said, criticize. But they won't assume, they won't say, here, let me be responsible for this. They'll say, I would do this, but how come you ain't doing it? That's because I'm doing this. But if we want to get more done, you do that. I'll help you if you get it underway, but I'm holding down my responsibility. That's how the body works. The head don't come in and teach everybody, and then they have to magically know how to do shit. The head got to develop everybody into their skill. The Most High is going to manifest through appointment of responsibility what part of the body every person is. But they got to give themselves over to the work. They have to say, okay, I will be responsible for this. Read on down, Amayatazah, verse 3 one more time and then down to 4.
Philippians chapter 2 and verse 3. Let nothing be done through strife or vainglory, but in lowliness of mind, let each esteem other better than themselves.
Before we move on to verse 4, go to Luke. Go to Luke 22. Let me show you. Luke 22, verses 24 through 26, Amayatazah. I remember, I remember sleeping on that damn floor on the stockroom side before you got here. And it got to the point where I couldn't even have classes with the brothers because he was so numb. He was so, you remember how he was, like if you had to check him once from that point, he'd withdraw.
Yeah.
So we got to the point where we wasn't even having class. We hadn't had classes for months. And I was praying and asking the Most High to show me a way to help this brother open up and or send me another award in the eye. That was my prayer. I said, Lord, if this ain't the one, I need you to send me the next one. Got to be like a war in the eye.
Yeah, I remember you to say that to me.
And that's what it was. The Most High.
That's why I was telling these guys the war was my inspiration, because that's all I used to hear. Like, I was like, yeah, I would be praying for them to send me another war.
Yep, war was a fucking fighter, brother. You know, he would get the shit done no matter what it took. Go ahead, read that. Luke chapter 22, verses 24 through 26.
Luke chapter 22, verse 24. And there was also a strife among them, which of them should be accounted the greatest.
This is talking about in the presence of Christ, the 12 apostles will be sitting around talking about, yeah, I'm gonna be this and I'm gonna be that. I'm gonna be this and they was literally arguing over who would be the greatest among them. Now watch how Christ put them all in check. Go ahead.
Verse 25. And he said unto them, the kings of the Gentiles exercise lordship over them.
Yeah, the kings of all the other nations, they're the ones who exercise the authority and lordship over their subjects. Go ahead.
And they that exercise authority upon them are called benefactors.
Continue.
But ye shall not be so. But he that is greatest among you, let him be as the younger.
So that means, listen, that shows you we're not supposed to be operating with these titles of bishop this and elder that and commanding general that. Christ said that's what the nations do. When it says they that exercise authority over them are called benefactors, the benefactor, that's telling you they all are known by their respective titles. Like out here, they'll say patron or patrona. That's the person that's in authority of any given house. Si patron, si patrona. Right? The Romans said dominus, domina for the woman, dominus for the man. We don't have that. We weren't set up to be benefactors like that. He said, but for you, it shall not be so. Read it from that verse again. Call it out.
Luke chapter 22, verse 26. But ye shall not be so. But he that is greatest among you, let him be as the younger. And he that is chief, as he that doth serve.
See that? He that is chief. So our metric in us, in the spirit of executing our office, is it in the spirit of a servant? Is it out of what the body needs? Will you lay down your life for the body? We're gonna get some more on that. Thank you, Amayekazai. Let's go back and read verse 4 now. Philippians chapter 2, verse 4. Start off at verse 3 again, so it'll flow.
Philippians chapter 2 and verse 3. Let nothing be done through strife or vainglory, but in lowliness of mind, let each esteem other better than themselves.
So that means humility of mind, lowliness. That means you don't consider yourself much. Listen, Amayekazai. Put lowly. Lowly, and that's going to be Lowly. Lowliness is spelled with an I, not loneliness, lowliness. Niggas be acting like the scripture said loneliness. They be all depressed and shit. Nobody, I ain't got no woman. The scriptures didn't say be in the spirit of loneliness. It said lowliness and shit. Lowly. Oh, see, this is beautiful. It's humble. Listen, it says it, having a low esteem of one's own worth. Now, what did I just tell us earlier? Thank you, Amayekazai. Sound like Amayekazai blowing the trumpet, brother.
Oh, sorry, I forgot to mute the mic.
That's all right, brother. I started to start going to my old Louis Armstrong, my old, you just smiling, and you're smiling, shit. While you blowing the horn, I started going and break out doing my, I see trees and birds. What a wonderful world. Anyway, you there, brother?
Yeah.
Hey, listen, I couldn't have did better. Number one, having a low esteem of one's own worth. And I've been saying this about humility. Humility is what? Is a recognition of one's what? Lack of importance or own worth, man. It's not about us. But what happens? Where did the value come in? Like these damn nigga songs, A Woman's Worth. Where do our value come in? Our value comes in on the recognition of who's using us and why. That's what makes, we're not valuable. His use is valuable. His purpose is valuable. And he just happens to have chosen us to craft us into instruments that he can use to perform his will. That's the value. That's what it's all about. It ain't about us. Having a low esteem of one's own worth. Humble is a synonym. Meek, free from pride. Now that's the spirit that is said, lowliness. In lowliness of mind, what does number 2 say? Mean. You know what mean means? Mean means average. And that's not talking about the work we do. It's talking about the spirit in which we do it. The work has to be exceptional. The Most High don't want average work. The Most High don't want mediocre investment. He wants the best. But the vessel has to know that it's nothing. And it tells you that in 1 Corinthians chapter 3. He that planteth is nothing, he that watereth is nothing, but the Most High that bringeth forth the increase. It's all about him. And how he's using you is what gives you your worth. You acquiescing and acquiescing to Christ and relinquishing what your desire is what gives you value for use in the hand of the master. Thank you, Amayetazar. This is cold. Oh, hold on. I number 2, I didn't finish number 2, and I saw something serious in number 2. Mean, low, wanting dignity or rank. Wanting means lacking. Lacking dignity or rank. That's what lowly is. Is that cold or what? See, because everything can be done based around rank. Yeah, you might not have a rank now, and you know that that's a stage that you got to go through. But you're not, are you doing it for, now you can let it go. Are you doing it for the rank? Because never mind. We had a different system, y'all. It was about the work and the work only. And who wanted to do it. Okay. And Christ said the same thing. Listen, find me that scripture. I want the verse where Christ says, come unto me, where he goes, my yoke, I am lowly. Take of my yoke, my yoke is not hard.
In Matthew 11, verse 28.
Let's go there real quick. Matthew 11, and read it when you got it. You want to read it above that, or that goes right to the point?
No, it goes right to the point.
Go ahead and read. Yeah, this is it. Go ahead.
Matthew 11 and verse 28. Come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest.
Somebody now, let me say, people don't understand this. They think that Christ is saying, I'm offering you an easy life. He's saying those of you who, first of all, where is he calling our people from? He's calling our people from darkness. He's calling our people from the world. He's calling our people from ignorance. And in calling them from all of those predicaments, he's calling them from their own wickedness. He's calling them from their own what? Poorly made decisions based on the information that they didn't have. So when he says, come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest, he's talking about coming from the life that you've been, that you have been allowed to abuse yourself, that you've been allowed to beat yourself up by making the wrong decisions. You've been allowed to run the course that ignorant people run that end up with more regrets than anything, that end up with screwed up relationships, having been abused by men, having been abused by women. having been abused by parents, having been abused by uncles, misusing. When I say abuse, I don't mean in the sexual sense only, more so in all the other senses as well. He's telling you the rest is in why? I'm a yes, you just said it. This is easy because at your level, all you have to do is follow orders. That's the rest. The rest is learn. Because you've been, see the work, the being heavy laden comes from what? Trying to, first of all, pull off an objective that is not meant for you. What is the objective to everybody in the world, in Israel, and everybody not in Israel? Is to be something in life, to quote the proverbial make it, the proverbial be successful. But what is success? See, that's the point. The minute you come in and find out this whole era and before has been a punishment, right off the bat, you no longer are under the yoke of what? Of having to be successful. You find out that you really are under the yoke or the obligation of what? And it's going to say, Christ has a yoke too, of fulfilling the will of the Father. And when you do that, he provides. When you please him, he provides and what? And blesses the work of your hands. That's the rest. It's no longer on you. It's no longer your life. It's no longer your aspiration. It's no longer a goal or an objective that you have to complete. It's what? All I got to do is complete my purpose. And that just becomes what? An issue of you learning it. So here, come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden. Because what are we heavy laden with? With all of the yokes that life tells us what we're supposed to do, the type of man that you're supposed to be, the type of woman that you're supposed to be, what success is, what a good father does, what a real woman, what a strong woman is, what a true man is, what, you ain't no man. How many times have you heard that shit in the world from a bunch of ignorant motherfuckers? They can't tell you what no man is, but whenever they do, they craft it around what a man is in their mind, because they try to bring you into captivity. They trying to make you jump through that little bitty flaming hoop. Read on down on the Yetazah, verse 29.
Verse 29. Take my yoke upon you.
So hold on. See, you do got a yoke. He said, but if you take my yoke, if you take why? Because the Most High is doing, see, what is it to take Christ's yoke? It means to submit to the will of the Father. That's the yoke. Then the Most High develops you and he ends up doing all of these things through you. You ain't got to worry about how well you communicate. The last thing y'all would believe about me is that this talkative monster that I am now, this was not me in the truth. This was not me before I came into the truth. I was the stupidest, first and foremost, reckless and quietest person and fearfulest person and shyest person that I knew. I kid you not. Literally. Somebody asked me something about myself or to explain something, so much so that in the university, whenever we had these different classes where I used to have to do oral reports, shit, I would go to the teacher, the instructor in their office on the, in the time on campus and make arrangements that I would prefer to do two or three written book reports as opposed to the one oral report, as opposed to the one oral presentation. And I was that afraid of speaking in front of people. And I mean, I put myself through 3 and 4 times more work to not have to do that, to avoid it. And the day I learned this and understood it, and I shared it with somebody for the first time, was the day that spirit left me. Boom. It's as though I never had it, ever. And I had it up until the time I was 24 years old. Literally. The only time I could freely speak is if I was talking shit. I ain't gonna lie. Telling stupid jokes, just talking shit. So this was a yoke that I undertook, that from that time to now, this ain't me speaking now. This ain't me. I can't have a conversation that don't erupt into teaching around the house with the kids or nobody. If you were here, you'd see I don't have a whole lot to say around the house. They'll let you know that. A whole whole lot of talking. I'll be studying and doing my work in counseling. Just there's not a whole lot, there's not much that's in me. That's all I can tell you. Without this, there's nothing in me. I'm not lying to you. Read on down, brother. Read what verse you at? Verse 29 again.
Matthew chapter 11 and verse 29. Take my yoke upon you and learn of me.
So what is his yoke? First, now let's not assume that we understand what the yoke. Look up the term yoke on the Yatazah, because physically the yoke was the instrument that went on the ox, that went on the beast of burden, that attached him to the plow so that he could prepare a field to be sown or be planted in, right? Cultivated field. That's the literal term of what a yoke is. But Christ is speaking as though what? As though we were beasts of burdens to perform the will of the Most High. So you see that. Look at number 1 first. It says, a piece of timber hollowed or made curving near each end and fitted with bowls for receiving of the necks of oxen, by which means 2 are connected for drawing. All right, you see that. But then which one is for us? Ours is number 2 on the Yatazah. It says a mark of servitude, slavery, and bondage. Is that called or what? Number 5 is even a better one. You read that one on the Yatazah since it's so elaborate.
Service.
Service. So Christ is saying, take my service upon you. Take my mark of servitude, slavery, or bondage upon you. Is that called or what? Then he uses the very number 5. Look at the example. He uses what we're reading. My yoke is easy. Okay, thank you, Amiyah. Let's go back and read verse 29 again.
Matthew chapter 11 and verse 29. Take my yoke upon you and learn of me, for I am meek and lowly in heart.
See that in mind. That means what? Christ was on this earth. And I'm going to prove this to you in these next verses when we go back to Philippians. While he was here, now we found out what lowly was. It means a person that don't think much of himself, they have a low self-esteem. See, Esau said low self-esteem means that you were like ready to, do something desperate, that you don't feel good about yourself. And our people receive it as such. But when you take a low self-esteem with respect to our calling, that simply means that we don't think more above ourselves than what we are, which is what we're trained to be in the world, to think more, to think highly of yourself. Why? Oh, you must be proud of your son. I'll be like, what the fuck? He ain't did nothing but eat. He's only 8 years old. Fuck you mean being proud of him? Nigga ain't did shit. You must be so proud. No, I'm thankful that they're not in the streets. I'm thankful that they're healthy. They're beautiful. Yes. But am I proud of them? Hell, like the pastor on YouTube said, hell no to the no, no, no. Right? Remember that nigga? Hell no to the no, no, no. Oh, shit. That's me. You must be so proud of the kids. I mean, they hit it. Hell no to the no, no, no. Oh no. We got the little lady in the back doing them little fills and shit. For real. That's how we're supposed to be lowly in spirit. It's in this work. So Christ is saying, take on my service. See that? Take on my mark of servitude and learn of me. That means what? Come to school. Get into this word. That's how you learn of Christ. If Esau's beating you up in your job, come and serve the Most High. See, people don't get that. They don't understand. That's what it's not saying your life becomes, quote, easier in the sense of physically easy. It becomes less demanding because the only demands that you have to fulfill are that the Spirit requires for you to make in those character adjustments with patience and temperance and tolerance and forgiveness, right? And meekness, meaning not taking things personal, not harboring grudges, not harboring any type of resentment behind inevitable offenses that have to take place for us to grow. I am meek. Go ahead, I'm yet to we're gonna get through verse 29. Do it again, verse 29.
Matthew 11, verse 29. Take my yoke upon you and learn of me, for I am meek and lowly in heart.
So Christ, while he was here, didn't think much of himself. And we're going to read that when we go back to Philippians. He did not think much of himself. And that's why there was a woman that said, blessed be the paps that did give thee suck. She was trying to praise Christ's mama. Christ said, no, better yet, blessed be the Father in heaven. Because she was hearing Christ's wisdom and trying to attribute that to his mother. Christ wouldn't let nobody outside the Father be what? Be thought more highly than what they should. They said, good master, what must I do to gain eternal life? Christ, before he answered the question, he says, why callest thou me good? Why are you calling me good? There's none which is good but the Father that's in heaven. Then he proceeded to answer the man's question. In other words, those are moments that we could read where Christ did not consider himself much. But to what degree? How did that lowly spirit, to how low did it run? How did it manifest itself? Read on down on the Yetazah, continue.
Verse 29. Take my yoke upon you and learn of me, for I am meek and lowly in heart, and ye shall find rest unto your souls.
He didn't say to your bodies. He said, you shall find rest to your souls. People be coming and using that scripture to be lazy, to be slothful. When he said rest to your soul, you see, we don't understand. This work feeds the spirit. You know what our people are lacking and can't put a finger on it? They call it, see, we speak in terms of our captors, of our captors. So our captors would describe the phenomena that we're going through when he goes through it on his level as feeling empty, as having a hole that can't be filled. But guess what that is for us? It's meaninglessness. It is, we lack what? We lack fulfillment. Esau's a different species and all the other nations are different animals. We're creatures, but we're creatures made in Christ. So the spirit in us, unbeknownst to us, craves fulfillment. Fulfillment that comes with the manifestation and the execution of our purpose. We've been put here for a reason, collectively and as individuals. And when we come into the knowledge of that and fulfill it, we have a peace and a rest of the soul. Although I can't tell you all them years that we worked 7 days a week, literally 18 hours a day, y'all, had class the whole nine. I mean, yes, he was sitting, I was saying, brother, I could do this forever, man. From this moment here, we'd be out in front of the store or after class or before class, and I'd be like, man, if Christ, I said, until Christ comes, I can do this for the rest of my life, even if he ain't coming back for the next 20, 30 years. That's how I feel now about this work. This is what's fulfilling. And that's what he's talking about when he said rest to your soul. It's talking about a resting place. It's talking about where you belong. Finally finding the pasture that you belong in, as opposed to wandering, as opposed to the eternal fucking search that you never fulfill. People be wondering how come women be all despondent? Because they listen, because they need purpose. Why do men be all despondent and depressed? Because we need purpose. We need to know why we're here, who put us here, and what it is we're supposed to be doing, and then be taught and trained and developed to do it. And when we see the fruits of our labors blessed by the Most High, that's the fulfillment. That's why it hurt so hard when that knowledge came that the school was gone on Guadalupe. I remember everything that went into it until the day when we were standing there, right, having taken the lease out, and we was pulling up all the pipes because it used to be a laundromat by this brother that lived over by Woodlawn Park named Moises Garcia. He's the one that sold it to us. Woodlawn Park is over that little lake, right? There's a park somewhere in San Antonio. Oh, you seen San Antonio? Maybe that shit done dried up. There's a park over there in San Antonio somewhere, close on the west side.
Yeah.
Right? Huh?
Yeah, Woodlawn.
Yeah, okay, am I thinking of movies and shit? Because they got a movie called Woodlawn. Is that Woodlawn Park, W Yard?
No, well, we're there right now. Yeah, Woodlawn Park has a lake. It has a lake.
Yeah, you got a lake, man. I should take LT and feed the ducks. You don't remember that shit, do you, LT? I'm telling you. I used to take him there and feed the ducks and stuff, right? And I'd go over, he'd be at the park with his mama. I'd go over there and talk to Moises and his wife. And when he gave us that store, brother, that was so much that went, so much faith. And he took a chance and gave us the lease, and then he decided, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and take the mortgage, guy. Okay. And Moises talked. And I was like, man, all the work that went into that, and that shit, when I found out it was going, that bruised me. Because of the time and the fulfillment, because that was, New York was a different level, but that was when the Most High showed me that, made it clear to me, Yatazar, what he required, and he'd be with you if you fulfill those requirements. That San Antonio, Texas was the one. Yes, I was a steward left in charge in New York when the elders took off to one of their trips to Egypt. And that was a big, great lesson. And it began to feel like I got wings, so to speak. Like I understood the trajectory of my flight. But when I got to Texas and the work that got done through the sacrifice, through the servitude, the loss that I suffered, the children that were taken, everything. And then at the end, we saw this powerful school, all the brothers strong, the nice home. I was like, now I know what I'm doing. Now I know how it's supposed to be done. Now I understand. And I came out here and the Spirit duplicated. That's why that hurt. Because that's where the rest was. That's where the turmoil dissipated. The turmoil of the world, man. And that's what we be needing. So when he says, ye shall find rest unto your souls, there's a thing inside of us called the Spirit that requires fulfillment. Fulfillment of what? Of its purpose. Then it settles down and grows into that. Last verse, Yatazar. Verse 30. Yatazar, did you get shut out? Or are your mic on mute? Okay, he stepped away. Go ahead and read that, Dawiyad.
Matthew 11, right?
Yeah, no, Matthew 11 and verse 30, final verse.
Matthew 11, verse 30. It says, for my yoke is easy and my burden is light.
See that? My yoke, meaning what? My service is easy. And my burden, the term burden means workload. Like they got that Christian song, I'm gonna lay down my burden down by the riverside. That's saying I'm gonna go by the riverside and take my workload off of my shoulders. That's what a burden is. But this work, it is easy. So what makes the work, what leaves us in the mentality that the work is what? Is laborious. What does that? It be us.
Yeah.
It be our resistance to accept the nature of the work. We're looking for something other than what Christ is offering. That's what makes it hard. Listen, it's okay, either he's the liar or we're the liars. Who's the liar here? We are. So I'm reading what it says. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. So why is it so difficult and heavy to you? It's the mentality. You're not here to serve, I'm telling you. You haven't accepted and embraced and fallen in love with the fact that you got this great and golden opportunity to serve, to do that which pleases the Most High. That's what brings us at. That's what has us at disharmony It be us and our carnal mind. Yes, yes, though, yeah.
That wall
Now,
is like,
you got to come over where I can hear you, brother.
that wall is like it's lack of acceptance, and after that, it's looking for other things.
Yeah,
What you don't accept, you gotta go somewhere else and find.
right. Because your spirit is still looking.
Yeah.
You know, it was looking before, but when it was presented your purpose, it didn't accept, it didn't embrace. But why didn't it accept? It did not accept. You don't accept it because you're catering still to your carnal desires. You're catering to your worldly lusts, meaning desires. And not the scriptures say. That's like the seed number 2. Number 3 in Matthew chapter 13 about the 4 seeds, it says that's the thorns, the cares of this world, and the deceitfulness of riches. That's other things that you think is your calling. But when we embrace this, and when we take that yoke, all I can tell you is this really is easy. When all I do is, what is the true work? Why is this work so light? What makes this easy? Because the one thing I just have to do is work on me. I don't have to do, see, the Most High wants to use me to help to bring Israel back to him. But I don't have to bring Israel back to nobody. I'm here. All I have to do is make me the vessel that the Most High will work through. I have to allow Christ to put me into fashion through my obedience. To what? To become a tool through whom he, Christ, will bring other people back to the Most High, using me as a speakerphone, using me as a mouthpiece, using me as an instrument, using me as an example. So the hardest work, the most demanding work that I have to effect is that in and of myself. And that's not hard either. Because I've been with me for as long as I can remember. Think about that. Nobody knows me outside the Most High Christ like me. I know what I really got to work on when it's brought to my attention. I know when brothers is telling me. I know that when I'm being chastised and corrected, that they're being truthful about me. I know that that's scripture, even though people be throwing scriptures out and they don't necessarily know why the Spirit got them bring that. Me sitting there in the audience, I know that that's talking about me. I know that I'm the liar. I know that I'm the dishonest one. I know that I'm the selfish one. I know that I'm the envious one. I know that I'm the malicious one. I'm the lustful one. I'm the jealous one. I know that it's talking about me. So the minute I come to terms with the most challenging aspect of my experience, and that is myself, the minute I begin to be truthful and transparent, the work becomes light because the Most High gives me more understanding. I have to rack my brain even less. He shows me how it's done, right? Because it's right there in the scriptures. And that's why it says, for my yoke is easy and my burden is light. But we take the burden, we take the yoke and make it difficult. We take the burden and make it heavy. Now, let's go back to Philippians. We're going to finish it up here. I wanted to show you that because we were going on to verse, are you back on me yet, Tazar? We're going on to verse 4.
Yeah.
Go ahead and read Philippians in chapter 2 and verse 4 now.
Philippians chapter 2 and verse 4. Look not every man on his own things, but every man also on the things of others.
So that means you're not supposed to just be into you. What are you using your body to contribute to provide for others? That's when it says, see, it's not saying look not every man on his own things at all. It's saying you don't get to be about you anymore. You don't get to simply be about your household or your wife or your husband only. Yeah, your husband is your priority, but then the Most High gonna use your household to do what? You're gonna have to teach this other sister how to be a husband, how to be the wife to her husband. Simple and plain. Sisters up in there supposed to be getting ready to be married. I'm keeping my feet out of that. I'm just saying, the point is, listen, what's your purpose? Even Paul said it. He says that I do the counsel that the younger women marry. You ain't there to be single. That's the shit in the world. From childhood, remember what we talked about the men. The same applies for the women. From the time that they're conscious, mommy and daddy and all of that shit, what is our parents doing? Our fathers are preparing us for manhood, which includes becoming a husband and a father and a figure in the community. The women are doing the same thing. The mothers in the community of women, along with the father, is creating in the little daughter, preparing her to be someone's wife, preparing her to be a mother someday. Just forever fucking single shit, nigga, 30 years old, single. What kind of womb do you think you got? You run around here where they got retarded kids trying to be like Esau having kids at 40. My kid got whatever syndrome. You know, your kid the sperm was tired by the time it got to you. Shit, the egg was already rotten when he got in there. That's the reality of it. So Esau have us thinking about all of these, listen, and that's how our lives, we do these, and then we be what? JP run around and chasing women out until he's numb. And I don't mean till his genitals are numb. I'm talking about till his soul is numb.
Yeah.
And before you know it, he's on his knees sucking somebody's penis. Why? Because he done desensitized himself. Literally, he done abused himself. He done did something for sport for so long that now he no longer can appreciate the opposite sex. Why? Because he dealt with that inordinately. That wasn't what that woman was created for. You get fulfillment when you assume responsibility for her. Now you're responsible for someone other than yourself. That's why the Most High married us to one another. We're supposed to be looking into the needs of everybody. And some of the young men, you know, there's going to come a time when the next thing you need really is a woman. And the Most High, like yesterday, he's going to know that. Because because that's a part of your development. That's a part of what makes you a man. Now you have your nigga, matter of you 30 years old, you just working only. But that experience teaches you how to think in a different dimension. It teaches you how to think and apply and counsel in a different realm. And this is what we're supposed to be doing. This is what I think about when I think about every congregation. Literally, I think about the young people and how if the proper dynamic doesn't evolve, the older people, my generation, if we don't have the experience and the counsel and the vision for the young people, we end up stifling their growth. Because young people ain't meant to come in and just have this knowledge and then that's it. Just do the law, statutes, and commandments. You don't grow. Yes, you're supposed to do the law, statutes, and commandments. That ain't what make you grow. That's what keep you alive. That's what keep you healthy. That's what keep you from getting shot in the ass for creeping in somebody else's bedroom. That's what the laws do. The laws keep us alive and they keep us healthy and they keep us safe from harm. But now what's your purpose? That's the true question. Read on down on me, yeah, because verse 4 on down.
Verse 4. Philippians chapter 2, verse 4. Look not every man on his own things, but every man also on the things of others.
And those things that I mentioned are what others, see, that's the thing. I don't know. When it said the things of others, that's what all these others need. It depends on what congregation you're in. So I'm looking at Mawala, I'm looking at Yeshaya, I'm looking at the sisters there, I'm looking at Dawiyah Yapaya. They all have a collective need as far as the body, but they all have individual needs as well. And a servant has to have done what it takes so that they feel, every person knows, not feels, but knows they can come and talk to a war, knows that they can come and lay their heart on the table with Shamshwan and Dawiyah so that they can get the things that they need particularly. And one of these days, y'all sisters gonna need a man. One of these days, y'all brothers gonna need a woman. What, look, I mean, am I lying on the Yatazan?
Nah.
That's the
What do you-
reality. What we came up, what's this gonna be a forever in Israel living single episode?
What the sister's trying to stay single?
Huh?
The sister's trying to stay single.
Say that again. No, this is just me speaking. Like, I'm just
Oh,
looking at
okay.
people. I'm taking the verse and acting as if I was sitting on the podium, right? I can get nosy, but I ain't gonna do it on YouTube. You know? Just saying, because why? Because that's part of their development. I'm gonna say it like this: if these sisters don't end up with a brother that's among them, they're gonna end up getting the twitch and getting it in the world, because that's what happens. That's the reason.
Yeah.
People want to act like shit like that don't happen. But that's
Yeah.
what happens when we don't come when we're not directed to embrace what our calling really is. And that's how the young men end up going out chasing ass at the titty bar.
Mm.
They ain't here to just work. And that sounds like a twerk song, right? Work. They ain't here to just do that. This is preparing them for the next dimension that's going to be added to them, huh?
100%.
This is preparing them to take what it is they do now and go even deeper in it when that baby comes. And now their faith got to get up now.
Yeah.
That's what
Exactly.
I'm just trying to take this verse and give it to them. In other words, this is what Awar and Shamswan and Daria is responsible for making sure that they cater to. And then you among yourself, you have this knowledge of one another.
Yeah. Do you know what? It's just like, you know, what I was saying earlier about, you know, for man, you know, the way the man grows in the spirit is by, you know, submitting himself to, you know, to the elder, by following instructions, you know, by being humble, by applying themselves. That's how the Most High pours, you know, more of His Spirit upon. That's how you grow in the Spirit. Same thing for the sisters. How's the sister going to grow in the Spirit? It's not by being single and then just doing your own thing. You're going to grow in the Spirit by locking in, by having a husband, locking into your husband, following your husband. So humbling yourself. The same thing the brother's doing for the elder, the same thing the sister's doing for her husband. Humble yourself, follow instructions, lock in, be of one mind. And you'll see the Most High will bless you. He will bless he will work through you to bless your household. That's how you become the woman in Proverbs 31. It's real. When you lock in, that's how you become that woman. You know, whatever work you do, the Most High will bless it. If you're in the world, you'll get promotions. You'll get pay rises because the Most High He's pleased with how you are looking into your husband and being of service. It's the same thing for the man or the woman. It's the exact same thing.
And that's why He's bringing us together. And so we're supposed to take the knowledge that we know of what every person have and put that before ourselves. They become just as important and more so important than I am to myself. That's the reality. That's what this is. That's what servitude in Christ is about. Read now, He's going to give you an added. Listen, read verse 5.
Philippians chapter 2, verse 5. Let this mind be in you, which was also in Yahushua.
Now, what is that verse saying? That verse is saying, now you think like this because this is how Christ thought also. That's what the mind in you means. The mind is the apparatus. The mind is the chamber of the thoughts. So let this mind be in you is saying, think like this because this is how Christ thought when He was here. Continue.
Verse 6. Who being in the form of the Most High, thought it not robbery to be equal with the Most High.
So He's telling you what form Christ had before He came to the earth. The Most High made Him like Himself. And that's why the scriptures say Christ is the express image of the invisible God. And not only was He in that level and in that image, but He didn't think He was wrong, like He was imposing on the Most High, like it was robbery. He was like, I'm like this, I'm made like this because my Father made me like this. But with all of that majesty, what was He thinking and how did He think while He walked the earth? Read on down.
Verse 7. But made Himself of no reputation and took upon Him the form of a servant.
Stop. First of all, made of Himself no reputation. This is about the work. This ain't about your title. This ain't even about your rank. Yes, we got a ranking system to help men develop properly, but I ain't doing it for the rank. Matter of fact, none of y'all brothers know my rank, and you ain't gonna know it. Shit, because I ain't doing it for the rank. Never did anything in my life in Israel for, received most of my rank when I was absent from the school. My rank always came to me as news reported in behind the work that we was doing out in California and Albuquerque, Texas, and Oklahoma and Miami. All right, the brothers, I'm telling them this is his rank now. All right, well, cool. I kept on doing the work. You don't make no reputation of yourself. If you're going to make a reputation of yourself, Paul refers to that as glorying. If you're going to glory, then what are we instructed to glory in? We're instructed to glory in our afflictions. We're instructed to glory in our infirmities. We're instructed to glory, right, in our persecutions. So verse 7 again from the top.
Verse 7. But made himself of no reputation, and took upon him the form of a servant, and was made in the likeness of men.
And that, listen, that's cold. Now that's the example. That's the example, that we make no reputation of ourselves, but that we what? That we operate in the capacity of what we really are. And that's a servant. Go ahead.
Verse 8. And being found in fashion as a man, he humbled himself and became obedient unto death, even the death of the cross.
The Most High said that's how he taught Christ's obedience. Go real quick. This is going to be the last one. I ain't got have no voice for tomorrow. Read that verse one more time, verse 8, and I want you to go to Hebrews chapter 5, right? Verses, I said Hebrews chapter 5. I'll find it. Yeah, it's going to be chapter 5. Read verse 8 first, and then go to chapter 5, verses 5 through 9.
Okay.
We'll end up revisiting that again, but I like the fact that it says obedient, because the Most High said he taught Christ obedience through suffering. In other words, if Christ became obedient, what made him obedient? So read verse 8 first.
Philippians chapter 2, verse 8. And being found in fashion as a man, he humbled himself and became obedient unto death, even the death of the cross.
One more, verse 9.
Wherefore the Most High also have highly exalted him and given him a name which is above every name.
So it says wherefore, that means because of this. So how did Christ get that name that's above every name? He said obedience. But what did the Most High use to teach him obedience? Now let's go get that. That's Hebrews chapter 5 and verses 5 through 9. And this is what the servant, we are subject to. This is the template from which we are crafted into being Christ-like. We are made Christ-like by following Christ's steps. But we follow his steps by what? In the fellowship of his suffering. Once you get it, you can go and start reading. Hebrews 5, verse 5 through 9.
Hebrews chapter 5, verse 5. So also Yahushua glorified not himself to be made.
Oh, hold on. This is saying the same thing that verse 7 said in Philippians, but made himself of no reputation and took upon him the form of a servant and was made in the likeness of men. Go ahead and read that verse again. Verse 5.
So also Yahushua glorified not himself to be made an high priest, but he that said unto him, Thou art my son, today have I begotten thee.
In other words, he's telling who under whose authority he was. Who was it that said that to Christ? Only the Most High could say that to Christ, because the Most High is the one that begat him and not us. But he that said that to him, go ahead, verse 6.
Verse 6. As he saith also in another place, Thou art a priest forever after the order of Melchizedek.
That's Psalms 104. Or is it Psalms 110, verse 4? That's what he's telling. In other words, these are all the places that in Psalms 104, David was talking to Solomon. But that was really the Spirit of the Most High talking to Christ in Solomon, in that verse that's being referred to, which is Psalms 110. Go ahead, Yetazar.
Verse 7. Who in the days of his flesh, when he
Meaning
had
Christ, Christ, who in the days of his flesh, that means in the days where he walked the earth, go ahead,
when he had offered up prayers and supplications with strong crying and tears unto him that was able to save him from death.
stop. This is talking about the last prayer in the Garden of Gethsemane in chapters 17 of John. Christ was crying, praying. He did not want to go through that. This was moments, hours at the beginning of his prayer before his capture. It's telling you what happened. Who in the days of his flesh, when he had offered up prayers and supplications with strong crying and tears. Go ahead.
With strong crying and tears unto him that was able to save him from death.
Who was the only one that was able to save Christ from that death? The Most High. That's who he was crying to. He was crying with tears and supplicating the Most High, who was able to save him from death. But did the Most High save him from death? No. Go ahead.
And was heard in that he feared.
And was the Most High heard? The Most High heard Christ, and the Most High knew that Christ feared, meaning he was afraid of going through that. Continue.
Verse 8. Though he were a son, yet learned he obedience by the things which he suffered.
The Most High said, although he was the son, he cried to the Father like a son. And though he were a son, yet he learned obedience. In other words, the Most High wanted him to die so that Christ could learn obedience, so that we could know what it's like to obey. That's how when we follow that trajectory, that is the level of baptism by fire that makes us what? The vessels through which the Spirit of Christ will operate. It tells you that in Corinthians. It says, for if you die with him, it says all day we are killed all day like lambs. But that the dying in the suffering, it says that, in other words, when we suffer, when we catch up, when we're persecuted, it says that we're going through the dying of Christ every time. So that in dying with him, by suffering his death, his spirit can also operate in our body. That we can also what? Partake of his life. And his life was about what? Giving life and cleaning people up and bringing them to the Most High. But if you run from these are the conditions of our servitude preparation. And we're constantly being prepared until Christ come back. When we run from this, it is to run from our purpose. When we take a lax approach to this, we're willfully offering ourselves to being unprepared. It's like the person that's going to med school, but the nigga won't show up for class. What is he going to know? Or any office for that matter, any occupation. You don't show up for training. You don't show up for the apprenticeship. You ain't going to know nothing. Read that verse one more time, Yetazar, verse 7.
Hebrews chapter 5 and verse 7. Who in the days of his flesh, when he had offered up prayers and supplications with strong crying and tears unto him that was able to save him from death, and was heard in that he feared.
Go ahead.
Though he were a son, yet learnt he obedience by the things which he suffered.
Continue.
And being made perfect, he became the author of eternal salvation unto all them that obey him.
Unto all them that what?
Obey him.
That's the condition. So we went go back to Philippians and read chapter 2 and read verse 8 and we're done.
Carl.
Yes.
Basically, it's saying that that Christ was the example of.
You have to speak up.
You hear me up?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, basically, what the scriptures, from what I'm getting it from, is it saying that you have to obey until death?
I have a saying, because we don't know, so you have to obey until death or the deliverance. Because some of us may be martyred before Christ comes, and some of us are going to be here until he comes. But whichever the Most High have determined for you, that's what you got to do this until. You don't get to a point where you 30 years in and all of a sudden now you're not being baptized. Your baptism is more severe. It's more inside your mind. It's that you're not going to stop being baptized. You're not going to stop being crafted into the servant. Because now, what's happening? We're being prepared to know everything that the Most High will have allowed us to gather in this setting to be equipped to handle our test in the wilderness. Who will be obedient? Who will be able to handle being what? Dealt with harshly and what's the term that Christ that we used that the scripture said in Luke 19, austerely. Who's going to shut up and do what they're told and be glad and be thankful to do it and jump at it and when they're told it to do their best? See, people think Christ's going to be ordering everybody. I don't know how it's going to be. How do you know he ain't going to set other men up that you got to follow and all of a sudden you thought you was going to be over that God? We don't know how it's going to be. I ain't been to the wilderness. Shit. The wilderness is coming. So all of this, yes, is preparing us. And your preparation is from the time that you came into the truth up until the time that you were delivered or that the Most High called you home. Whichever one that he is determined for each one of us, that's how long. Listen, the Most High offered us a new life in exchange for our old one. But like I always say, the new life, how long does it take to build a life? Whether new or old, a lifetime. And so that's how long. All right? Read that final verse, verse 8, one final time.
Chapter 2, verse 8. And being found in fashion as a man, he humbled himself and became obedient unto death, even the death of the cross.
And so how did he get obedient? The Most High had him suffer his whole life. That's what he was. People may want to, let me ask you this. How do you think you could handle 1 month of knowing that you got to die on the 30th of whatever? This month of June, right? Let's say on the 30th of June, you got to get the shit beat out of you and die a slow death. Are you looking forward to June? And you know this month gonna pass by fast now. You know, when you don't want some stuff to happen, them days be flying by. How would you handle that? So imagine being as young as 12. And I use 12 because we know by the scriptures that Christ was aware of his mission at least as early as 12. When his mother came back, you know, his father and his mother had to bring him and the whole people, the caravan down with him from Galilee to Judea to pay their taxes because that's where they were from. They had to pay their taxes in the town and the city where they were from to the Romans. On the way back, they 3 days back into the journey and found 3 days back in the journey home and found out that Christ wasn't in the caravan. So they had to double back and they searched all over Jerusalem and found him in the temple, teaching and talking with the doctors and asking questions. And his mother said, you know, we worried about you. And Christ said, woman, how long must I suffer thee? You know that I be about my Father's business. So we know that, and it tells you in that chapter, in those verses of history, that he was 12 years old. So if he knew his mission at 12, can you live? Do you know any children that can live with knowing that their ultimate date is death? On what day? And that from 12, you got so many years, but when you're 33, this is going to happen. This is who's going to accuse you. This is who's going to betray you. These people are going to bring these false accusations. They're going to spit on you. They're going to beat on you. Then after they beat you, then Pilate is going to take you and beat you within a literal inch of your life. Then he's going to take that body and mangle it. Then he's going to crucify it. Hell, most kids are committing suicide over tests today. Yatazan. You imagine having to know something like that? But the Most High submitted Christ to obedience using that. In other words, the Most High's metric for Christ of obedience was to endure that after having lived a perfect life. Yes.
You saying that Christ had knew when he was 12?
We'll go over that on another occasion. Yes, it's going to be Luke chapter 2 or Luke chapter 3. It's one of the chapters where it tells you when he had to go down to pay taxes. Not him, but his parents. And so he was 12. It says Christ being 12 years old, and that's what happened. So he knew as early as 12. He could have known sooner. I mean, I got an 11-year-old son and daughter, and they quite conscious. He could have, but that we know that 12 is the earliest that's written, because it's in there. So this is what we're preparing ourselves for. This is, listen, and this is the most challenging part of our experience, is breaking ourselves to his will. This work ain't hard. It really is not. That's what Christ said, my yoke is easy and my burden is light. But we make it heavy. We make the yoke hard, we make the burden heavy by our contrariness, by our fear, by us wanting to retain in the face, in the knowledge of what we know now, of what the Most High's will is. We seek to retain our own purpose. We seek to continue to perform our will and satiate, to satisfy the desires of our flesh, to satisfy and feed the desires of our mind. That's what makes it hard. That's what makes it heavy. But like Christ said, man, Donnie Hathaway said it, he ain't heavy, he's our brother. He ain't heavy, he's our savior. That's the reality of it. So, Yataza, you want to say anything before we bounce with them?
Just to reiterate to everyone, the importance of just submitting and trusting the Most High. And that's really what all this boils down to. Whatever you're afraid of, I don't know what that is. As I said to you, always try to reflect on mine and Carl Cobb's dynamic in Guatemala. We basically submitted ourselves to the program. We viewed each other as more important than the other, and that's how we were able to go through everything we went through in terms of living off of $2 a week, in terms of working all those hours, in terms of all those sacrifices, because it wasn't about us. And as I said, once the Most High saw that we had that mindset, he blessed us. So whether you're a brother or a sister, this is about truly trusting the Most High. Either you believe or you don't, And so, like I said, just humble yourselves, apply your minds, give yourself over to the Most High, and trust me, He will make this life joyous for you, and He will bless you.
That's the best word that you could use, man. Joyous. It really is. I don't deserve this opportunity. I'll still be in awe. So, brothers and sisters, we'll see y'all, and we're gonna pick it up where we leaving off. And you brothers out there and sisters, brothers particularly that's out there listening in YouTube world or wherever it is we streaming on, y'all get yourself to the school, man. Y'all gotta reach out and call and catch up and communicate with the Lord, huh?
Sister's got a question, Carl.
Okay, my screen wasn't on. Hold up.
Hi.
Yeah, come on.
I just had a quick question. So for a woman who's unmarried, what does our life look like until we get married?
See, if I was there, I'd be able to be a little bit more detailed because I would know more about you and your circumstance. But you are to literally like if you're not living, quote, with your father's roof, then that means your fathers and your brothers and your guides are war Shamshwan and Dawiyah. That's the truth. That's how that is exactly how it's done. And you study now. I can imagine that they would commit you to the God in certain capacities to the guidance of some of the senior sisters like Yapaya or probably a Wars Rib Ayana, But that is who you would have to play very close, because they are the vessels through whom your development will come. And you pray and you ask the Most High to bless you, to help to develop you into what your purpose is and for whom you're supposed to be given, and then obey. That's how He does it. Obey until that moment comes, All right, sister? All All righty. So y'all, we good, right? Ain't nobody gonna throw no eggs at the screen. This big old pow.
What I appreciate y'all coming through.
Yeah, man. We'll see y'all on Friday. I mean, yes, I'm gonna talk to you briefly, okay?
All right, cool.
All right.
Shalom.